Good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the opening race of the 2023 Formula One World Championship season. 3 months ago, we were watching Max Verstappen wrap up the title, or at least wrap up the season, his title-winning season, with victory in Abu Dhabi. Now we are back in the Middle East, ready for the curtain raiser of the 2023 season. And not much has changed. Max Verstappen is lining up on pole position in the Red Bull. His teammate Sergio Perez is alongside him. The Ferraris are third and fourth, Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz. Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martin is in fifth spot. And then George Russell and Lewis Hamilton, the Mercedes drivers, qualifying sixth and seventh on the grid. We have a 57-lap race coming up for you, but we'll be here for the next couple of hours or so to see who gets the best start in this new season. Alongside me for commentary is the former Mercedes F1 reserve driver Sam Bird. He's now a Formula E racer for the Jaguar TCS racing team. And the first race of a new season, Sam, always exciting, because you never know what we're going to see.
I'm so excited for this, Jack. I really don't know which way it's going to go. Everybody predicted at the beginning of the year and after seeing testing that Verstappen would wipe the floor with everybody. But it hasn't been the case this weekend, has it? We've seen multiple people topping timesheets, including Fernando Alonso.
Down on the grid for us this weekend is Rosanna Tennant. And Rosanna, I'm jealous that you're on the grid. I love being up here in the booth and overlooking everything like the overseer that I am, but being down on the grid must be such a vibe.
Yeah, it's super special. The engines have been firing up. We've just had the national anthem, and it's a busy grid. Lots of people turning out for the first round of this record-breaking season. I'm just standing on the sort of grass strip next to the start-finish straight, looking up into the grandstands. It's absolutely jam-packed, Jack. So many people here, lots of flags flying. I can see Mexican flags. We've got a few Perez fans in the house. We've got a lot of McLaren supporters. I can see lots of orange. I'm sure they are McLaren fans, not Max Verstappen's. But of course, he's on pole today, so plenty of attention at the top of the grid. Lots of media crowding around the two Red Bull drivers, of course, locking out that front row.
Yeah, Verstappen just having a little discussion with GP, his race engineer, before he gets into the car at the front of the grid. Now, he took pole yesterday in qualifying. Perez was second, Charles Leclerc third in the Ferrari. Now, one of the interesting things in qualifying yesterday was that Charles Leclerc saved a brand new set of soft tyres. He's the only one of the front runners with a brand new set of soft tyres. That'll give him some extra purchase off the line, and Ferrari sort of sacrificed their grid position in order to have this tyre advantage coming into today. How do we see that playing out, Sam?
Well, it'll work wonders, Jack, if he can get ahead of Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen. But if he gets stuck behind the two Red Bulls, it kind of doesn't matter that he's got the new tyres. So he could be as quick as he wants, but if he doesn't make up positions, go forwards and pull away, there's no gain.
The drum show now starting at the front of the grid is the sound you can hear. The sun has set now over the desert here in Bahrain, the floodlights illuminating this circuit. And so behind the Ferraris is Fernando Alonso in fifth position. A lot of excitement, wasn't there, about Fernando Alonso coming into this weekend? Well, the excitement sort of grew over the course of the weekend, didn't it? Because initially we thought maybe Alonso will be in the fight somewhere between 5th to 10th. There was a brief period over the weekend, it looked like he was in the fight for pole, but it wasn't quite to be.
Yeah, we all got very excited, didn't we, when he started topping free practice times and being really close to the Red Bulls over the course of Friday and Saturday. We thought, could we see Fernando Alonso on pole? I think that they've set their car up for the race. I think Alonso's thinking of the bigger picture. Remember, he's had 2 decades in the sport now, Jack. I mean, I think he's very wise. I think he's going to Aston Martin. And let's go to Rosanna.
Yeah, we'll hear from his boss.
Thanks, guys. I'm with Mike Crack, the team principal at Aston Martin. What a weekend and what a way to kick off this season. Are you confident this form can carry you all the way through 2023, Mike?
Yes, I think so. I think we have a good car. We have confirmed that by now. Obviously, with the different races, with different characteristics, you will be a bit higher up, a bit further down. This is something that we will have to confirm. But all in all, I think we have a good baseline to do a good season.
And what is it like having Fernando in the team? What does he bring? What noticeable difference has he brought to the team already?
He has brought a lot of energy to the team. You know, he's motivating everybody even more than we have ever been before. So it has been really impressive the way he has integrated with the team and the way he's pushing us. So it's really great to have him.
And what an effort from Lance Stroll to get back into a cockpit after a fortnight after a bike crash. Is he going to make it to the checkered flag this evening, do you think?
I'm not sure if I understood your last question.
Will Lance make it to the checkered flag this evening? Will his wrists really hold out?
Yeah, we have no doubt about that. I think we have to really pull our heads from what Lance has done, because at the end of the day he came here without any testing, having to jump in comparison to all the other drivers. So I think he did a fantastic job so far, and I'm quite confident that he will score solidly today.
We're excited to see how you get on. Thank you very much, Mike. I'm actually going to try and stay live and grab Toto Wolff. Toto, a quick word. Hello. I will walk with you. Where are you in your mindset? What's going through your mind this evening, and how is it going to change over the coming weeks and months?
I think at the moment we are where we are. I need to do the best possible out of today's race result, and then look at what we are doing with the car overall.
Good luck today. Well, there we go. I'm not sure what you take from Matt, Jack and Sam, but I think it's pushing water up a hill at the moment for Mercedes.
Yeah, certainly. They're sort of in a fairly evasive mood maybe when it comes to questions like that, because that's the thing, Sam. They're starting 6th and 7th, George Russell and Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton said we're on the wrong track on Friday afternoon, and even there Toto Wolff still suggesting they're not 100% sure which way they kind of need to be going. We're going to see how today's race goes and then kind of make some decisions.
It's like the car's a mystery, because at points it's shown a real turn of pace, and then there's other times where it's languishing down in 9th and 10th, not where they want to be, and they've sort of hit this sort of halfway point. They're 6th and 7th on the grid here this evening. Am I expecting them to go forwards? Personally, maybe 1 or 2 places, but I don't think they're going to be in for a podium finish this weekend, to be honest.
And after they finished last season so close to the back of the Red Bulls, looked as though they'd made some good development. It wasn't ultimately the case coming into this season.
I mean, when you say they were close to the back of the Red Bulls, they had a great Brazil, but that was it, really. I wouldn't say at any other point were they really right on the back of the Red Bulls. Talking about Red Bull, let's throw to Rosanna with Christian Horner.
Christian, you've put yourselves in the best possible position this evening, but how confident are you on the long run pace of the car?
Well, look, I think we're going to get that first impression of the season by the end of this race. So we had a good test last week. Ferrari have looked strong, particularly yesterday on their long run, and Fernando, likewise. So take your pick, really. I mean, it's going to be an exciting Grand Prix, and hopefully we can turn these grid positions into a good result.
And Max wasn't actually wholly comfortable, so I assume there is plenty more in this car for 2023.
Well, look, I mean, every day is different. It just shows people were giving us the trophy after the testing, and I've been around too long to know that that's the case. So it's going to be a long, hard marathon of a season, and this is just the starting point.
Good luck today. Thank you very much. Well, there we go. A marathon. It really is going to be a marathon, isn't it, guys?
Yeah, 23 races this season, so it's the longest season in Formula One history. It's got to be the longest season in sort of any form of motors. Maybe NASCAR do a load of races, don't they?
And NASCAR do like 40 races or something.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a couple of weeks sometimes. So this is definitely the busiest and longest and hardest Formula One season that we will ever see.
So we have got the race getting underway in a little over 6 minutes time. The BBC's chief F1 writer Andrew Benson is with us in the booth here as well. Andrew, Christian Horner saying Ferraris look a little bit quick on the long run pace. Do we buy that?
No. I mean, Charles Leclerc saved a set of new tyres specifically because he's worried about his long run pace. He wanted to get as much out of it as he could, and that stopped him being a bit closer to Verstappen in qualifying. He sacrificed that pointless gap for pace in the race. But no one thinks the Ferrari, particularly in race sims, the closest to the Red Bull, and no one's close to the Aston Martin, Fernando Alonso, but I detect a bit more confidence in Mercedes today. I also suspect that Toto Wolff was saying all sorts of things yesterday. We're not going to win with this concept, but we can still win this year. Contradicting himself left, right, and centre. the fact is, you can't throw this car away. This is the car they've got for the year. They can make lots of changes to it, and obviously that's coming. The only question is what they are. But I think they feel that they can actually make something out of this race. So what I expect to see is a battle between the Red Bulls for first and second, which Verstappen will almost inevitably win. And then for the podium, it's between the Ferraris, Alonso and the Mercedes. And that is probably the most exciting battle, I expect, anyway, before we start.
I mean, I was speaking to Pete Bonington, Andrew, in the pits before we came up here to the comms box, and he seemed bullish. And Bradley Lord actually confirmed that as well when I bumped into him. They both seem to think that they've made gains from Friday to Saturday, Saturday to Sunday. They expected that over the course of the weekend, compared to their competitors, they found up to and around half a second in terms of lap time. So Mercedes seem relatively confident going into this one.
Lance Stroll is 8th on the grid in the other Aston Martin. Now, you heard Rosanna asking the team principal at Aston Martin, Mike Crack, whether Stroll would get to the end of the Grand Prix. That's because he hurt both of his wrists in what the team say was a cycling accident. He's 8th on the grid. Let's go back down to Rosanna.
I'm with James Vowles, the new team principal at Williams. I haven't actually seen you yet, James. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. That's just because I've been hiding away from you, that's all.
Oh, well, that's just offensive. Look, I thought yesterday went pretty well for you guys at Williams. Are you ready to take a step on this year?
I mean, everyone's always ready. You can tell the team are just hungry for success. It's actually, yesterday was bittersweet. We know that there was more in it. We know without the flat problem, we've moved forward. And to be in the same millisecond as Norris is incredible. But from our perspective, it's the start we needed to build from.
Well, good luck and well done on the new job.
Thank you.
There we go. New boy at Williams, but of course he's been in the sport many years, Jack. He's going to be brilliant, I think, as a team principal down at Williams.
Yeah, the chief strategist at Mercedes for a lot of in fact, almost all of their championship winning years, I think. And you heard many times on the radio, Valtteri, it's James, or Lewis, it's James, sorry about that, or whatever. But yeah, James Vowles making the move from Mercedes to become team principal of Williams coming into this season. Mike Crack, as we say, team principal of Aston Martin. Ferrari have a new team principal this year in Fred Vasseur as well, and Andreas Seidel has moved from McLaren to Alfa Romeo to oversee that operation, meaning that Andreas Stella is now the team principal at McLaren. So quite a lot of team principal movement in the off-season, more than I can ever really remember in Formula One. But Christian Horner, still the team principal of Red Bull, as he has been since they joined the championship in the mid-2000s, and we are just 2.5 minutes away now from the start of the Grand Prix. As I say, Stroll starting in 8th place in the Aston Martin because of, it'll be interesting to see whether he can get to the end of the Grand Prix with that wrist pain after hurting both of those a few weeks before pre-season testing, and didn't actually take part in pre-season testing, broke one of his broke both of his wrists, says Andrew Benson, the BBC's chief F1 writer. I knew one, I didn't realise two. So there we go. And he admitted, or he revealed last night, he broke his toe as well in all of that. So big old shunt for Lance Stroll. He starts in 8th on the grid. Now Verstappen and Perez on the run down towards the first corner. Charles Leclerc is going to be feisty. Oh, that's what I was going to ask you, Andrew. Fernando Alonso in 5th place, and Sam, you give me your answer after this. Does he need to be feisty off the line? Does he need to clear the Ferraris as quickly as possible, or does he need to be circumspect?
Well, I think he's the best first lap driver in Formula One.
Yeah.
And what he normally does, his general strategy is to go to the outside and sweep around the outside and gain ground that way. So I'm surprised the other drivers haven't worked that out by now, if I have. But anyway, he'll be certainly looking to make ground. I think he sniffs a podium. He was even talking about it yesterday, not in a way that he was saying, I think we can do it, but just it sounds incredible that we can be thinking about getting a podium, given where Aston Martin have come from. But you know what Alonso's like? Once he gets a sniff of something, he goes after it like there's no tomorrow. So he'll be definitely trying to go forward if he can.
It's like red rag to a bull. I think that at the same time, on the flip side though, Andrew, he knows he's now got the car to get that podium, so he might be thinking, look, I just want to settle in. I don't want to have any contact, any silliness at turn 1. I just want to get round and go about my business with my good tyre day. We're going to find out in a couple of minutes' time.
The first race of the 2023 Formula One World Championship season is about to begin here on BBC Radio 5 Sports Extra. We will have every second of the Formula One season for you across the BBC Sport website and the 5 Live and Sports Extra network. Everybody now is clearing the grid. The mechanics move to each side, just leaving the 20 race cars lined up and ready to do their formation lap and then begin this season. Max Verstappen is lined up on pole position in the Red Bull. The car shudders gently as he clicks it into gear, and it is 3 o'clock here on Sports Extra. The formation lap begins for the Bahrain Grand Prix. So the car's on the formation lap now, and this is the full grid. Max Verstappen starts on pole for Red Bull. His teammate Sergio Perez alongside him. Charles Leclerc is third in the Ferrari. His teammate Carlos Sainz is in fourth. Fernando Alonso is fifth in the Aston Martin. Then it's the two Mercedes of George Russell and Lewis Hamilton, with Lance Stroll completing the top 8. Esteban Ocon is 9th in the Alpine. 10th Nico Hülkenberg in the Haas. 11th is Lando Norris's McLaren, ahead of the two Alfa Romeos of Valtteri Bottas and Zhou Guanyu. 14th is Yuki Tsunoda in the Alfa Tauri. Alex Albon is 15th for Williams. His teammate Logan Sargent right behind him, making his Formula 1 debut this weekend. Kevin Magnussen 17th for Haas. 18th, another debutant, Oscar Piastri for McLaren. Nick de Vries is 19th in his only second Formula 1 race. And Pierre Gasly completes the 20 drivers. So we're anticipating a two-stop strategy around this race. The pit stops may be coming around lap 15 to 17, but so much in Formula 1 strategy these days is sort of it's a bit of a game of chess, isn't it, Sam, of who will blink first and who wants to use the undercut, because that can be very powerful here. There's a car right off the circuit on the left-hand side. Who on earth was...
That was Lance Stroll, I believe.
Yeah.
Was way off the circuit. Interestingly, every single car bar Kevin Magnussen down in 17th is starting on the soft tyre. Kevin Magnussen is going to be starting on the hard.
He's one of the main drivers out of position, I would say, down in 17th spot. His teammate Nico Hülkenberg up in 10th position. The sound you can hear is Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes starting 7th.
Well, the other one that's really out of possession for me is Pierre Gasly, who is actually last on the grid.
Yeah, he starts in 20th place, as Pierre Gasly. We're just having a look at what happened to Lance Stroll, coming down into turns 9 and 10, and he just went in too quickly and almost locked the left front, managed to get it stopped, but yeah, quite rare to see a car going that wide on the formation lap for Lance Stroll. Mike Crack, the team principal, is standing watching on the pit wall as the cars now make their way in front of the commentary box here, with Max Verstappen at the head of the field. The two-time world champion for the last 2 seasons, and he will be starting on pole position for the Bahrain Grand Prix. Fred Vasseur, the Ferrari team principal, sitting on the pit wall. Toto Wolff in the garage next to Mick Schumacher, the new Mercedes reserve driver. Thank you very much, Steve. The cars are just pulling up onto the grid right in front of me, and on pole position it is Max Verstappen in the Red Bull. Sergio Perez is alongside him. The sun has set here in Bahrain. The floodlights illuminate this spectacular desert circuit, and the final car of Pierre Gasly in the Alpine is about to pull into position. As I say, Red Bull front row, Verstappen ahead of Perez. Ferraris are 3rd and 4th, Leclerc and Sainz. Fernando Alonso is 5th in the Aston Martin. Then it's the two Mercedes of Russell and Hamilton in 6th and 7th. Here come the lights, the revs rise, and the 2023 Formula 1 World Championship season begins. And it's a pretty good getaway from both of the Ferraris. Verstappen has got an okay start, but Perez has got a bad one. And Perez is going to get squeezed either side, and there's almost contact as they run down towards the first corner. And Charles Leclerc goes to the outside and gets up into 2nd place. Verstappen holds the lead. Leclerc is in 2nd, Perez is 3rd, Sainz is in 4th spot as they come now up towards turn 4. Alonso is still 5th. He's under big pressure from Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton goes to the inside into turn 4. Hamilton and Alonso wheel to wheel, and through he goes, and Stroll hits Alonso. Lance Stroll hits his teammate, but Alonso manages to keep going, but he may well have picked up a puncture from that, and he's fighting now with George Russell, who's managed to get ahead of Alonso too. So is Fernando Alonso's car going to be okay after that contact with his teammate? But Max Verstappen leads. Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari has got up into 2nd place. 3rd is Sergio Perez. 4th is Lewis Hamilton. Sam Bird, that was so close on the run down to the first corner. Those 3 cars, 3 abreast for the lead.
Heart was in my mouth, Jack. That was an incredible start. What bravery from everybody, all the front lot really. And then perfect start for Leclerc, perfect start for Hamilton, but the worst possible start for Aston Martin.
The 2 Aston Martins then coming together. Alonso is still running by the looks of things, but he's behind both Mercedes now. The top 6, Verstappen, Leclerc, Perez, Sainz, Hamilton and Russell. Full commentary on Sports Extra. Down in towards the end of the first lap then, through the right-hander. Sergio Perez got a terrible getaway, but managed to kind of get his elbows out and relatively keep the Ferraris behind him. There's a yellow flag in the second sector, maybe just a bit of debris out there, because I think there was a Williams with a wobbly front wing. The order at the end of lap 1, Verstappen, Leclerc, Perez, Sainz, Hamilton, the top 5. Russell, Alonso, Bottas, Stroll and Norris is the top 10. And then it's Ocon in 11th, Albon and Sargent have got him into 12th and 13th, Hulkenberg 14th, 15th is Tsunoda, 16th is Piastri, Joe, Magnussen, Gasly and De Vries, the 20 drivers, but 4 positions gained for Valtteri Bottas off the start. Alonso drops a couple of spots, and we're getting a look at what happened to Lance Stroll. He just sent it in really deep, and how Alonso didn't end up getting spun around or a puncture from that is remarkable, because Stroll came barreling into turn 4, whacked the rear right of Alonso's car, his teammate, but they survive unscathed for the time being, it seems.
Well, you say survive unscathed, but there might be, well, there's definitely some debris on the straight between turn 10 and turn 11. We don't know what car that's from. We don't know whether Fernando Alonso's car's picked up any damage. We haven't heard any radio transmission from the team telling him that he's lost downforce or anything, but I can imagine Alonso will not be happy with that.
Lap 2 of 57, Max Verstappen leading. The gap is just over a second to Charles Leclerc behind him in second place. Then it's Perez in third and Carlos Sainz in fourth. Hamilton is in fifth, up 2 positions because he started behind his Mercedes teammate George Russell. And Hamilton had made the move already on Fernando Alonso before Alonso got hit by Lance Stroll. The move had been made, and Russell was trying to follow through as well. Lap 3 of 57 now. Verstappen's lead 2 seconds at the end of lap 2.
Well, Hamilton went down the inside into turn 3, and Alonso was looking for the cutback, which is why Stroll suddenly thought maybe the door was open down the inside, but he was going into a door that was closing very, very quickly.
Alex Albon up into 12th place in the Williams. His teammate Logan Sargent is right behind him. Sergio Perez is about a second behind Charles Leclerc. And Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari in 4th position, if anything, is pushing a little bit. Right, we're going to get a replay of the start. And Perez did not get away well at all when the lights went out. Leclerc was sort of already alongside him, and Perez tried to close him off, and then Leclerc tried to squeeze. Oh, that was nearly huge, actually, because Leclerc tried to tuck into the slipstream of Verstappen, squeezing Perez, but not realizing Sainz was there on the inside. That was such a sketchy moment for Carlos Sainz on the run down towards the first corner, wasn't it?
Yeah, but in the end it worked out okay, Jack. Everybody got round. Heart in the mouth moment for both Ferraris, both Red Bulls, but I think good driving, to be fair. Good driving from everybody.
So it is Verstappen leading the way. In fact, Perez's getaway wasn't too bad. It was pretty similar to his teammate Verstappen's, but it was just the Ferraris that got rocket starts.
Well, both Perez and Leclerc wanted to get the toe off the back of Max Verstappen. That's why Leclerc was so close to him. He wanted to use that slipstream to try and attack into turn 1.
So, across the line they come again. Verstappen leading the way, 2.6 seconds.
In turn 4, yeah, but I mean, they cannot do that.
Yeah, copy, we are reviewing.
I don't think Alonso knew who hit him. I think he's saying, I got hit, they can't do that. But I don't think he realised it was Stroll. We're also now seeing Nico Hulkenberg going to the inside of one of the Alpines coming into turn 4, and he lost a little bit of front wing there, did Nico Hulkenberg, and that is the front wing that sort of shattered going down the back straight, but that debris has now been removed on the back straight. Max Verstappen's lead is now up to 2.8 seconds, looking very, very strong here. Max Verstappen out in the lead of this Grand Prix. Leclerc is about a second ahead of Sergio Perez. Perez is only 7/10 ahead of Carlos Sainz behind him, and then Hamilton is less than a second back there too. So Verstappen checking out a little, the rest of them all keeping in a fairly even, equidistant queue right now. As Sainz in 4th place goes up through the gears, down the back straight, up into 8th, hits the brakes at 100 meters and then down into 4th gear through the left-hander of turn 11 and then back on the power, little short shift as he climbs the hill. And then into turn 13. And we'll start to see what sort of pace Charles Leclerc has in 2nd position, or rather, what sort of pace Perez has in 3rd, because Verstappen is having a very, very strong run as he comes across the line this time. I think he's going to grow the gap even more. Cuts the timing beam now. He comes past this and then followed fairly shortly by Charles Leclerc now. 3.4 seconds now, the gap at the end of lap 4.
The problem Sergio Perez has is that he's sitting in the turbulent air of Charles Leclerc. Even if he's got the pace of Charles Leclerc, has a big lock-up into turn 1. That is not going to help his front tyre life.
And here's an attack from Lance Stroll. He's trying to get past Valtteri Bottas and he pulls it off. So Lance Stroll gets ahead of Valtteri Bottas, but that mistake from Charles Leclerc has brought Sergio Perez right to the back of him. The Ferrari in 2nd, 3rd is the Red Bull, and Bottas is trying to fight back against Lance Stroll but can't get it done. So Stroll back up into 8th place, Bottas down to 9th, Ocon completing the top 10. Logan Sargent and Lando Norris are having a nice fight over 12th position, and Sargent has lost out to Norris now. So Norris in the McLaren up into 12th position, dropped behind both of the Williams at the start, but has now managed to get back ahead. Bottas down into 9th place. So Verstappen now leads over 4 seconds ahead of Leclerc, but Perez is less than a second back from Charles Leclerc and is in the DRS range. So he gets to open the flap in the rear wing. No further incident, for no further investigation into the Stroll and Alonso collision. So they're free to carry on racing. And Leclerc lost quite a bit of time with that lockup, and it's quite early in the Grand Prix to have that lockup on these soft tyres. They'll want to stay on them for another 10 laps or so.
It wasn't as bad a lockup as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was at the beginning of the braking zone, which really would have hurt the tyre. But it was mid to end of braking, so if it's just a small snatch, it should be okay. But he can't do that too many times, Jack. If he keeps on doing that, it'll be a big issue before the end of the first stint.
They come into the brakes, into the first corner again, and this time Leclerc manages to get it stopped. Sergio Perez is just half a second behind him as they now come on the run-up towards turn 4. Perez opens the DRS again, closes the gap a little more, but is still that half a second back as they come into turn 4.
Perez has got a tear off from one of the cars in front, stuck on one of his antennae.
Oh yeah, right at the front of the car there, yeah. So that shouldn't make too much of a difference, you'd hope, for Sergio Perez. Lando Norris is still holding on against Logan Sargent. Sargent, I think, has tried to fight back. Sargent making his Formula 1 debut in the Williams and running fairly solidly, to be honest, in 13th position at the moment, the American driver.
Doing a really solid job. It's strange to see a Williams fighting with a McLaren, but that is the form currently. I think Williams have done a solid job through the winter, and McLaren obviously are having some real difficulties.
There were concerns that Williams were going to be right at the back of the grid still coming into this season. They may end up shuffling out that way at the end of the year, but at the moment they've started fairly strongly. Lap 6 of 57 here in the Bahrain Grand Prix. Max Verstappen's lead is now over 4 seconds. That to Charles Leclerc in 2nd place. Leclerc managed to get ahead of Sergio Perez off the line on the run down towards the first corner. Verstappen has managed to hold the lead. The gap is now 4.7 seconds as they come across the line this time. Perez still within a second of Charles Leclerc ahead of him. Sainz is dropping back a little. He's 2.8 seconds back from Leclerc and Perez, and that is a trend we saw last season, with Sainz unable to quite keep the pace of those in front.
Just looking at the fastest laps, Jack, Leclerc did the fastest lap of his race last time round with the 1:38.5. That is about 8/10 slower than what Max Verstappen can currently do. So at the moment, Max Verstappen very much in a league of his own.
Lap 7 of 57. It's also very close between the two Mercedes. Hamilton running in 5th and Russell running in 6th. There's less than a second between them at the moment, so that'll be a nice little intra-team fight. The Aston Martins, though, running behind the Mercedes. 7th and 8th for Alonso and Stroll at the moment. Rosanna?
I've just been down to the Aston Martin garage, Jack, and asked whether there was any damage on Fernando's car. They said they haven't heard anything yet and everything seems okay. So fingers crossed the teammates coming together won't have an impact on their race going a little further into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. I think it'll be frustrating for Alonso because he's lost a spot to George Russell, maybe even sort of technically two, because the argument would be he was trying to fight back and get repassed Hamilton coming out of turn 4, but wasn't to be. Russell now trying to fight Hamilton in front of him. 0.8 of a second between them. They're 2 seconds back from the Ferraris. Across the line comes Verstappen again, and the gap at the front goes up to 5.3 seconds after 7 laps. This is quite a phenomenal opening stint here from Max Verstappen.
Every lap it's over half a second he's pulling away from everybody else in the field. It's what we expected, but also what we feared might happen. I mean, we all hoped that it would be super close between Verstappen and Leclerc and Perez, Sainz going into today's race, but when you've got Max Verstappen in this kind of form, it's very difficult to stop him.
Sergio Perez has dropped to over a second back from Charles Leclerc now in that fight over second place, so that's calming down a little bit. Logan Sargent is still putting the pressure on Lando Norris and is thinking about a move coming up into turn 4. It's all very well being a experienced driver like Logan Sargent is in the junior formula, but I imagine it would feel very different actually racing a Formula 1 car for the first time, sort of in wheel to wheel, or does it just feel natural? When is the most power you've ever sort of done and had?
Look, he's had multiple days. As George Russell goes wide out of turn 10, I don't think that would have cost him too much, but maybe that was a lock-up going through 9 and 10. You know, these guys really have to be careful on these front tyres. The moment you start flat spotting, you really tend to drop backwards. Going back to, Russell radio.
Is Lewis managing or is he slow? I feel like I've got a bit more pace. Struggling.
So Hamilton is struggling, is the message to George Russell. Russell saying, I think I've got a bit more pace than Hamilton, which looks to be the case because he's less than a second behind his Mercedes teammate, but how much more pace is the question. And Russell, as you say, Sam, just making that mistake at turns 9 and 10.
Yeah, just having a late lock-up on the front left and then just drifting wide. Such a tricky corner to get the brake bias and brake shaping correct, this one.
Through the start-finish straight again comes Max Verstappen. The gap now up to over 6 seconds.
You were asking me about Logan Sargent.
Yeah.
So we didn't really cover that. I think he'll be absolutely fine, and he'd be more than happy in the car from lap 1. He's done multiple days in the car. He's done hundreds of sim days, presumably. So, you know, this is just another racing car. As we see Leclerc radio, we are going to plan A.
So, Leclerc doing plan A, whatever that means. The sound you can hear is the Fernando Alonso Aston Martin running in 7th place, and he's now starting to put George Russell under a little bit of pressure. He's got to within a second of the Mercedes in front of him, and then Stroll is staying with Alonso as well. Bottas has dropped back to 3 seconds off the end of that pack. Ocon is 10th, Albon is 11th, Norris and Sargent still all very close together. In fact, Albon, Norris and Sargent all pretty much equidistant. Sonoda 14th, Hülkenberg 15th, Piastri, Joe, Gasly, De Vries and Magnussen, the 20 runners. And Magnussen started 17th on the hard tyre and has now dropped to the back of the order and is 2.2 seconds off the back of everybody else. So he's going to hope the race comes to him a bit later on today.
Well, that's why he's gone hard at the beginning. I think they probably would have expected to lose those positions early doors and hope that the race comes to them when they put the softs on later on, when people are struggling for deg in the latter stages of the race. Max Verstappen.
Understood, step by.
Downshifts are giving me a bit of rear locking, says Max Verstappen. So as he's going down through the gears, the rear tyres are stationary for tiny moments of time. Into the pits comes Pierre Gasly. So Gasly running in 18th position, so nowhere near the sort of front of the order, and he started on the soft tyre. He's coming on to put a set of hard tyres on, and he's one of the first to blink. Looks a bit slow and clunky on the front left for Pierre Gasly, and indeed it's a 3.7 second pit stop, which is just over a second slower than you would anticipate or happy to hear. Laura says, always happy to hear what plan Ferrari are on. David says, who would have thought it? Ferrari have a plan A in 2023. Because it is always plan D that you hear.
We had so many plans last year.
Go back to Strat 8, Max, and let me know if the downshifts change.
So that's the Max Verstappen Red Bull team, GP coming on the radio and trying to sort out Max Verstappen's problem. Started on pole position, Verstappen. He is leading as he comes through the right-hander and out across the line. And his gap now 7 seconds to Charles Leclerc. Leclerc's 1.6 seconds ahead of Perez, so he's managed to stave off that battle for now. Sainz is in 4th place, 5th and 6th are Hamilton and Russell, but Alonso's really close here to the back of George Russell. Through the final corner at turn 14, a little bit of a correction, but he gets on the power fairly nicely. This could be an opportunity here for Fernando Alonso. Opens the DRS. I don't think Russell has DRS on Hamilton as they come down. Max Verstappen is really dominating here. He's 7 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc on the 11th lap of the Grand Prix. The fight behind Verstappen is fairly interesting. Sergio Perez is only just behind Leclerc. Sainz is a little bit further back, and Fernando Alonso is trying to attack George Russell, and Oscar Piastri is just overtaking Kevin Magnussen. So busy everywhere else in the field, but Verstappen running away with it currently. So Piastri then up into 13th place because Norris and Tsunoda have both pitted now. So Norris is pitting to try and undercut Alex Albon ahead of him fundamentally, because he was running in 12th, Lando Norris. He's coming out a long way back here. I wonder if that was a slow pit stop from Lando Norris, because he's come out behind Yuki Tsunoda and Pierre Gasly. So must have been a terrible pit stop for the McLaren team. We'll try and get to the bottom of that one. Alonso is really putting the pressure on George Russell now, coming down into turn 11, making Russell to cover the inside a little. The fight over 6th position, and Fernando Alonso's got a really good run now coming up the hill. I wonder if Russell's tyres are gone, because Alonso is so much quicker in areas of the track you wouldn't expect him to be that close.
Well, they were on the radio, weren't they, saying about Lewis Hamilton struggling. It looks like that's now affecting George Russell. The Aston Martin, we thought it was good on its tyres. It seems to be doing that right now.
Into the final corner. Here's Russell's radio.
Tyres are gone. We need to think about boxing.
There we go. Tyres are gone, says George Russell. Alonso seems a little too far back on this occasion to make a move down into turn 1. The Mercedes crew are ready in the pits, but they didn't come into the pits at that point. They were ready for the cars, but the cars didn't come.
Alonso's lining him up into turn 3 every lap. That's the aim, to get the DRS, get a good braking, straight line brake, but then turn late into turn 1, cut back, get a good drive through 2 and into 3. And he's not this lap though.
Not quite close enough this time around. So Albon has pitted, Bottas has pitted, Hülkenberg has pitted, De Vries has pitted. And we'll keep an eye on where they emerge, because of course Lando Norris was in the middle of those Williams when he was fighting them, but I really feel like Norris had a long pit stop when he came in to put the hard tyres on, so he might be out of the running there relatively. And look at 9 and 10 is where Russell is struggling so badly, and Alonso is able to get so close to the back. The Mercedes can't put the power down either. A little bit of wheel spin, and Alonso is coming into turn 11 where he's the closest every time.
He's driving shorter distances on the exits, going sort of tighter. He's able to hold a tighter line on all the exits, because Russell just can't get the car there. He's having to try and keep the minimum speed up, otherwise he'd have no exit and no minimum.
Through the final corner, the penultimate corner, and surely Mercedes, they're running out into the pits now. A set of hard tyres are ready for one of their cars. I think it's, well, do you do Russell or do you have to pit Hamilton first, because he's further up the road around the final corner, and it is Hamilton. So Hamilton comes into the pits. Russell is going to be left out there to try and fight another day with Fernando Alonso. Here they come down towards turn 1. Alonso is closer than he's been before. Russell covers the inside, Alonso to the outside, but this is the setup that Sam was talking about a lap ago, and Russell can't even get on the power coming out of turn 1, and Alonso's going to breeze past him. He gets the switchback coming out of turn 3. Russell tries to squeeze him, but I think it's going to be too little too late. Alonso to the inside in the Aston Martin, and Alonso is through. Russell tries to hang it around the outside, nearly pulls it off, They now come into 6 and 7. They're still side by side. Unbelievable racing, but Alonso manages to make the place. So Fernando Alonso up into 5th position in the Aston Martin. Russell with no tyres. I was not expecting that fight back. That was lovely stuff.
Great fighting from George Russell there. Didn't give up at all. He had no right to try and keep it around the outside of Fernando Alonso, but it nearly worked. Great racing.
Alex Albon then has been into the pits and has come out on a set of soft tyres. Everybody else has started on the softs and gone to a set of hards, but Alex Albon has started on the softs and gone to another set of soft tyres, which is quite interesting as he continues to lead the way. Ferrari are coming out into the pit lane now, so they are getting ready for either Charles Leclerc or Carlos Sainz. Sainz is a long way back from Leclerc and Perez. It is Leclerc. So into the pits now comes Charles Leclerc. The Ferrari comes to a halt, goes up on the jacks. The soft tyres come off. The medium tyres go on, or is it hard? I think it is hard.
I think it's hard, yeah.
Yeah, it's just when and they're double stacking actually. So Sainz is into the pits as well. New set of hard tyres for Carlos Sainz also. It's the sort of orange lighting ambiance that I struggle with that made him look a bit yellow. Also into the pits has come George Russell. Fernando Alonso has stayed out then, and it's a slow stop for Russell. Eventually he gets released. I think it might have been the front left that was a bit sticky. Here's Oscar Piastri's radio.
Lost the gearbox.
Copy. Keep trying to downshift. We think it's the steering wheel. So Oscar will box this lap and swap the steering wheel. We'll box this lap.
So Piastri's going to swap 5 wheels at the pit stop this time. Out onto the circuit again comes George Russell. He is now behind Kevin Magnussen, but obviously Magnussen hasn't pitted. Has he lost out to Bottas here? I think Russell's been undercut by Valtteri Bottas in the Alfa Romeo. He has come out now ahead of George Russell. There's damage on the front of Esteban Ocon's wing, so he's had a bit of a collision out there somewhere. Into the pits comes Oscar Piastri. Off goes the old steering wheel, on goes the new steering wheel. Then they've got to fire up the car. Verstappen's going to be coming into the pits at the end of this lap. And the car looks like it's turned off basically for Oscar Piastri. I presume they were hoping it wouldn't turn off when they switched the steering wheels.
Yeah, normally when you switch steering wheels quickly, the engine will keep running. That's such a shame. I mean, he was having these are all learning laps for him. It's his first Grand Prix, but it's a shame that it's not going to be one to remember, I don't think.
Nice swift pit stop for Max Verstappen. He comes back out onto the circuit and will emerge in 2nd position. Sergio Perez is in the lead of the race now, but is yet to pit. Rosanna, what's going on at McLaren?
Well, a lot of waiting at the moment. The McLaren mechanics are waiting. The wheel guns are in the air. The tyres have been changed. Everyone's rushing to get a picture. We've got cameramen trying to get a shot. Everyone's trying to see what's going on. And Oscar Piastri just waiting patiently in the cockpit.
Now, where's Fernando Alonso going to emerge? Because Hamilton has just come out ahead of him. Alonso's leaving the pits now, having made a pit stop. He's coming out behind Bottas. So Bottas has gained a couple of spots here, and he's got ahead of Russell. Russell is side by side with Kevin Magnussen. Rosanna?
Well, it looks like there was a sort of almost a sigh, a collective sigh by the mechanics just then. It looks like they may be retiring, but at the moment they're still holding the cooler into the roll hoop, into the air intake to keep the car at the optimum temperature. Lots of puzzled looks from the mechanics around the McLaren car.
We can hear one shout just behind you. Just get off with it.
I think it's all over.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a shame for Oscar Piastri. He's out of the running whatever happens, whether he does retire or not. He's not going to be in the hunt for points. Esteban Ocon's been given a 5-second time penalty for an incorrect grid position, whatever that means. Well, I mean, it's obvious what it means, but that's quite an unusual one. So, where we are is Sergio Perez is leading the Bahrain Grand Prix, but has yet to stop. In 2nd place is Max Verstappen in the other Red Bull, and he has pitted. Lance Stroll is in 3rd. He also has yet to stop. Then Leclerc is ahead of Sainz. Hamilton is in 6th position. Bottas has got ahead of Alonso and Russell. Crucially, Alonso, well, he had already made the overtake on track on George Russell. Into the pits now finally comes Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin. But Bottas has gained 2 places over the course of this pit lane period by undercutting both Alonso and Russell. And I'll be honest with you, Sam Bird, I didn't see that one coming.
I didn't see that at all. He sort of snuck up on us, hasn't he? But, you know, doing a really good job. He has stopped for tyres. I think he did that quite a bit earlier than everybody else, which is why the undercut was so powerful. But I tell you what, Valtteri Bottas has been really strong all weekend, but really under the radar at the same time.
Now the fight between Alonso and Russell is going the other way. George Russell is behind Fernando Alonso and trying to get that position back. Kevin Magnussen has come into the pits now, as has Esteban Ocon. Ocon will serve his 5-second time penalty in the pit lane, in the pit stop, so he'll lose a bit more time for the Frenchman. Not a good day for Alpine, because Gasly started, I mean, he's up in 12th now, but he started right at the back, and Ocon has served his 5-second time penalty and has now departed the pit lane. Perez staying out there still on these soft tyres. Verstappen running in second. The gap between them is 10 seconds, and then it is 10 seconds Verstappen to Leclerc, then it's 11 seconds Leclerc to Sainz, and then Hamilton's only 2.2 seconds back from Carlos Sainz. What did they do on the last lap? Sainz did a personal best 7/10 quicker than Hamilton, so Sainz only just got out the pits ahead of Hamilton once they made their pit stops.
But this is really bizarre. Sainz at the beginning of the weekend looked like he was outpacing Leclerc. He was looking really strong. He looked like he had his, his head round this new car of Ferraris more so than Charles Leclerc. But come the race, it's like the pace has just disappeared. He's way off the back of Charles Leclerc.
Andrew Benson, BBC's chief F1 writer, is scrupulously writing notes as we go. Scrupulously, is that the right word? I don't think it is, but
it was one of Sainz's biggest weaknesses last year, if you remember. He made a great emphasis as the season went on of how well he'd managed to close up on Charles Leclerc in terms of qualifying pace. He was 2.5 tenths off Leclerc on average for the sort of first third of the season. As we got Alonso challenging Bottas here, it looks like he's going through into turn 4. Indeed he is.
Oh, I'll retire, Andrew. That was great. That's great. So Alonso around the outside of Valtteri Bottas and up into 6th place. Russell will try and follow through shortly.
And Sainz got much closer over the balance of the season in qualifying, but he was always considerably weaker than Leclerc in the races, or at least, well, not absolutely every single race, but on the balance of averages, Leclerc was much the better Ferrari race driver, and it looks like that pattern's continuing this season.
On that last lap, Sainz was only 2/10 quicker than Lewis Hamilton, so the gap's still 2.5 seconds. Right, Perez is coming into the pits, and he's going from a set of soft tyres to another set of soft tyres, so a differing strategy here for Sergio Perez. In he comes from the race lead, a net 3rd place it was at the time. How neat and tidy is this pit stop from the Red Bull squad? As ever, swift as you like, 2.4 seconds, and he's going to come out here behind Charles Leclerc, I think still. Leclerc coming down the start, finish straight, comes under the commentary box now. He's going at 200 miles an hour. Perez releases the pit limiter now and rejoins the circuit, but he's on soft tyres, Leclerc's on hards. So I think this middle stint, or this second stint for Perez, is about trying to close in on Leclerc and trying to attack Leclerc. That feels like an aggressive strategy from the Red Bull team. George Russell is now trying to get past Valtteri Bottas. Alonso did it a lap ago. Russell knows he needs to try and do it as quickly as possible. These two have collided before in the past, of course, in Imola in 2021. But Russell is going to go to the outside here. He's got DRS. Bottas is out of DRS range of Alonso. He's still holding it on the inside though, Valtteri Bottas, but to no avail. Around the outside, sweeps George Russell. He's now got 1.2 seconds to try and close in on Fernando Alonso. But Leclerc's 4 seconds ahead of Perez in 2nd and 3rd. Perez has got soft tyres. He's going to be on the attack.
He should be, absolutely. Just, now that we've had the first round of pit stops out of the way, it's just a question of, is this race going to go the way of a 2-stopper, or is it going to go the way of a 3-stopper? I think that most people in the top 5 are looking at a 2-stopper right now. I don't know what Andrew Benson thinks, but I'm certainly thinking it's going the way of a 2-stop race.
Well, I wrote a little note for Jack a couple of laps ago saying, remember 2-stop v 3-stop. What I was implying with that was that I think Bottas is probably on a 3-stop, whereas the likes of Alonso, Hamilton and everyone above them is probably on a 2-stop. I was trying to imply to Jack that I didn't think Bottas was really in the race, even though he has had a decent weekend for Alfa Romeo.
Let's go down to the pits. Rosanna Tennant.
Thanks, Jack. Yeah, well, we've just seen our first retirement of 2023, and I think it'll be disappointment for Oscar Piastri, who can't even get his first F1 race under his belt this weekend. I've just been down to the team to see what went on, and they're telling me it's an electronics issue, which obviously covers all manner of sins. So hopefully I'll be able to catch up with Oscar as soon as possible, and he'll be coming out of the garage shortly, so I'll keep you updated.
Yeah, on the sliding scale of usefulness, that's slightly more useful than a car problem, but not by much. So we're just getting a look at Lando Norris's pit stop from ages ago, and everything seemed to be attached. Oh, they were doing something. What was that mechanic doing in the cockpit of? Oh, they were filling. They were what are they doing when they
pneumatic pressure?
Yeah,
maybe?
That's what I'm trying to think. Like air. They're putting like air into the car by the looks of things, and putting some more air in the pneumatic system potentially. So that is where Norris lost all his time. So he's now running last, dead last, Lando Norris. So all the pit stops, the first pit stops have filtered through, and it is Max Verstappen quickest, Charles Leclerc second, quickest, leading. Charles Leclerc second, 10 seconds further back. Perez is third, and on that last lap, well, this is going to be the first lap where we'll get to see him on these new tyres. But fourth is Carlos Sainz, 8 seconds further back. He's 3 seconds ahead of Hamilton. He's 4 seconds ahead of Alonso. He's a second and a half ahead of George Russell. 8th is Valtteri Bottas, 9th is Lance Stroll. 10th is Alex Albon now in the Williams. Tsunoda is 11th. Here's Verstappen's radio.
How are the downshifts at the moment and the rear locking?
Yeah, manageable. I mean, they're still not good, but...
And then behind Tsunoda, we've got Gasly in 12th. 13th is Sargent. 14th, Nick de Vries. 15th, Joe. 16th and 17th, the two Haas cars now, Hülkenberg and Magnussen. Hülkenberg lost a lot of ground at the start and has now fallen back a little. And then Ocon and Norris, the 19 runners. And here's a look at Lance Stroll going past Valtteri Bottas into turn 1, and he goes through. So Lance Stroll now is up into 8th position, Bottas down into 9th. Now Esteban Ocon's in trouble for not serving his time penalty correctly. And I did wonder, his pit stop looked a bit quick when we sort of cut to it in the pit lane from what I could see, and I did think that at the time, but I thought, well, obviously they've served it properly, but they're under investigation, so maybe they didn't, maybe they forgot to do those 5 seconds. Lap 20 of 57.
So we just heard from Max Verstappen talking about his downshift difficulties, and he says it's manageable. It's not good, but it's manageable and it should be fine. But it's just quite funny how Max Verstappen's manageable, he's still 11 seconds up the road from everybody else. I mean, imagine if it was the other car's great. How far up the road would he be then?
Max Verstappen still leading this one, 10.6 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. Sergio Perez, third in the other Red Bull, is closing in on Leclerc on a different tyre strategy. Lewis Hamilton currently running in 5th, ahead of Alonso and George Russell, but Verstappen disappearing out at the front still, in control of this one as we approach 1/3 race distance. Fastest lap of the Grand Prix for Sergio Perez, but only takes 2/10 out of Charles Leclerc.
The other one that's a little bit quicker than who he's racing against is Fernando Alonso. It's about 3/10 a lap currently quicker than Lewis Hamilton, fighting over 5th position.
Yep, so we'll see the gap between them is 3.4 seconds right now.
And Lando, car ahead is Ocon. He served a penalty, might have to have another one. Let's have some fun with him.
That's Norris being told about the Ocon penalty. Norris has had another stop as well, actually, for more soft tyres. So he, only 2 laps ago, Lando Norris pitted again, and we're on lap 21 of 57 as they come out onto the back straight and down towards the right-hander. Just having a look at why he got the penalty here, Esteban Ocon, and he lined up far too far forward of his grid slot. Sam, look, he's miles ahead.
Absolutely miles ahead, yeah. And then this is a replay of Esteban Ocon's pit stop where they're changing the front wing. I'm not sure why he's got the penalty for an incorrect penalty taking scenario though.
Well, I think they didn't. Were they waiting? They did it?
No, they didn't wait before doing
the front wing.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Yeah.
So they didn't wait before they did it. So not ideal for. Well, not ideal. Literally against the rules for Esteban Ocon there. Fastest lap of the race again from Sergio Perez. That time he took half a second out of Charles Leclerc, and Leclerc locks up again into turn 1, and that'll cost him a little bit of time. He's starting. he comes now on lap 22 of 57 up towards turn 4. And Perez is trying to close that gap. Sainz still running in 4th, Hamilton 5th, Alonso, Russell, Stroll, Bottas and Albon, the top 10 right now. But it's now 2.5 seconds back to Leclerc and Perez. He took half a second out of it. He lost half a second, Leclerc, with that mistake at turn 1. Second time we've seen him do that today.
Yeah, he's got to look after these tyres have got to last him until probably lap 40. So he's got to just keep them alive, make sure that front left is looked after in turn 9, 10, and look after the front right into turn 1.
Charles Leclerc running in second spot at the moment for the Ferrari team. He's 11 seconds back from Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen did a personal best lap of the race last time through. Worth pointing out, Verstappen went on the softs as well. I don't know if I said that earlier on, but both Red Bulls going soft to soft, whereas Leclerc going soft to hards. Carlos Sainz running in 4th spot. Perez closing in now on Charles Leclerc for that second position. Alonso's fight with Hamilton is drifting away a little. He took a 10th out of him on the previous tour. This time Perez across the line is just 2 seconds back from Charles Leclerc. So albeit Charles Leclerc made an error in turn 1 on the last lap, over the rest of the lap he still took another half a second out of him.
So this is more of a question for Andrew Benson. So obviously Max Verstappen's next stint has to be on the hard compound tyre. Do you reckon Charles Leclerc is thinking in the car now, right, my only chance of winning is by staying on this set of hards? Could he potentially think about doing a one-stop?
I don't think so, Sam,
okay.
though. I think they were talking about the hards lasting sort of just about over 20 laps. The problem with this track is that you have very high thermal degradation on the tyres. They don't run out of rubber or anything, they just get too hot. That's why it's very, very rare for anyone to be able to do a one-stop. Also, we've got the issue is that Ferrari is worse on its tyres than the Red Bull. His concern, Leclerc, obviously, is what does he do with his next set of tyres? Does he go soft or hard? Because obviously Verstappen's done two sets of soft, so he has to go hard for his last stint. Does Leclerc try a soft? Because we know Perez will have to go hard for his second stop too. But
why isn't anyone using the mediums then?
Because it's terrible. It's terrible.
And why is okay?
It's got no grip. It just doesn't work. I don't know why on this track, but everyone's abandoned it basically as hopeless. I think Leclerc, frankly, will be probably thinking Verstappen's out of reach. He'll be trying to hold on to second against Perez, a bit like in Abu Dhabi 3 months ago. It's almost like they haven't had new cars, isn't it? I would think that's his race, and then what do Ferrari do on tyres is the choice.
Lando Norris up into 18th place. He's just got ahead of Esteban Ocon.
I was just trying to be optimistic and give everybody a little bit of hope by saying that maybe somebody could do something different, but yeah, it doesn't seem to be the case, does it?
And Verstappen still pushing on. Perez is now just 1.3 seconds back from Charles Leclerc. As Andrew says, what will these two do on their final stints? They'll be sort of running opposite, as it were. Coming through turns 6 and 7, down towards turn 8. Slow right-hander, and here's Leclerc's radio.
And information degradation on hard is lower than expected.
Degradation on the hard tyre is lower than expected, is the message to Charles Leclerc, which is positive, but he is getting closed in by Sergio Perez. 8 laps down for Perez on this compounded tyre. Perez did 17 on his first set of soft tyres, so he's got plenty more in the tank here, Perez. He can keep running for quite a while longer. The sound you can hear is Charles Leclerc's Ferrari coming into turn 13 and coming out towards the final corner. Has a quick look over to his mirror to see how far back Sergio Perez is, and the answer is about a second. Esteban Ocon's now got a 10-second time penalty for serving his time penalty incorrectly, for not serving his time penalty. So I don't know if he still has to do the 5-second one. Well, that's just another 5 seconds. I presume that's another 5 seconds on top of the previous 5 seconds. So at his next pit stop, he'll have to do 10 seconds. Perez has got DRS now on Charles Leclerc coming into turn 1. A little bit too far back. But the two flash through turn 2. And now up towards turn 4. Perez still a little too far away. as they come into the right-hander. And Perez a little wide up at turn 4, so that costs him a few tenths in the fight. And Leclerc presumably has to just fight as hard as he can here to keep Perez behind, rather than playing the long game.
Absolutely. I mean, Perez managed to do 17 laps on his opening stint on the softs. He should be able to easily match that, if not go slightly longer on this set. Alonso radio.
So we are happy with your management now. Happy, this is good.
Yeah, they have more deck, so let's think how to use it. Let's get closer, let's see what they do.
So that's Alonso running in 6th place, 2 seconds back from Lewis Hamilton. He sounds so chilled in the car, doesn't he? And he's just like, yeah, they've got more deck than us, so let's get a bit closer. See how they do?
Absolutely. I mean, he's pulled away from Russell, and he's just slowly creeping towards Hamilton. Last time we spoke about it, the gap was around 3 to 3.5 seconds. He's got it down to 2 seconds. So he could be within striking range in the next 3 or 4 laps.
Out onto the start-finish straight. Down towards turn 1. And is he going to be close enough this time around? Perez, he was waiting till darting out late in the day, and he goes to the inside. Bit of a rear lock from Charles Leclerc. He tries to get the drive off the corner. Perez gets ahead, but this was Leclerc's trick last year with Max Verstappen. Get overtaken into turn 1, but he didn't see it coming quickly enough, I don't think, Leclerc, because he didn't get DRS. Sends it to the inside at 4, but he's not close enough. Perez catches Leclerc by surprise, and it's a Red Bull 1-2. Verstappen in the lead, Perez in 2nd, Charles Leclerc down to 3rd.
The difference in the moves between last year and this year was Perez was still behind, still behind at the DRS activation point. So very clever move from Sergio Perez.
Yeah, that was really good, wasn't it? You could see Leclerc looking in his mirror, and Perez dived out at the last minute. A lock-up now from Leclerc coming down into turn 10, and it's gone. Leclerc, it will be in 3rd place for the foreseeable. He'll try and come back at Perez in the final stint, but it's going to be a tough ask now for the Ferrari driver, with Max Verstappen leading 13.5 seconds clear of Perez. Charles Leclerc in 3rd, Carlos Sainz in 4th, Hamilton 5th. Now Alonso is starting to close the gap to Hamilton in 5th. Here's his radio, Hamilton's.
Let me know what you mean team is doing. Don't you pick up the pace? We're happy with the time management. We'll stick with the time management.
So again, that is Hamilton being told, yep, just stick with what you're doing. No need to pick up the pace just yet. And they come out onto the back straight. Only one retirement from this race so far. That is Oscar Piastri in the McLaren, as he retired with what the team called an electrical problem. The other McLaren of Lando Norris down in 18th place after they had reliability problems in the pits as well, and had to do 2 stops so far already. Lando Norris, he was fighting up in 11th position. Here's Hamilton's radio.
So you've had some of the best deck of the field, so we're happy to pick up the pace now and drop this manager.
So Hamilton being told you had some of the best degradation on the field, i.e. the least degradation. Rosanna?
Thanks, Jack. Yeah, I'm with Oscar Piastri. Oscar, what happened there? I was watching as the team were almost deliberating what to do with you. What was the problem?
Some kind of electrical issue. We thought it might be the steering wheel, but that changed. It didn't fix anything. So we'll have a look and diagnose what it is. But yeah, a bit of a shame. Felt like it was going reasonably well. So yeah, we'll try and find out what went wrong and make sure we're in better shape in Saudi.
It's been a while since you've been in race condition. What was it like to finally race in anger again?
It was good. I mean, to be on a racetrack again was a very nice feeling, and to be in a competitive environment. I think the first lap was pretty clean, and you know, a reasonable. Don't think I lost any spots, and if anything, maybe gained a couple. So yeah, I thought it was pretty reasonable. I think I was getting there, just experiencing dirty air and stuff like that. It's a big step up from F2, and even that was over a year ago now. So a lot of learning still, so there's still definitely some stuff I can learn and take away from the brief race that I had, but we'll try better next time.
Bad luck, onwards to Jeddah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Oscar. There you go. Well, before the weekend, he was saying there wasn't such a big difference between F2 and F1. I think perhaps now he's had his proper taste of it, he thinks otherwise, Jack.
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember Jack Aitken last year saying the big thing that caught him out was the dirty air on the run down towards the first corner. I think it was here in Bahrain that he raced, and everybody said there'll be a lot of understeer at turn 1 because you'll have no grip, and he was like, yeah, okay, got it, dirty air, you know, I know what to expect. And then he did the first race down in the first corner, he's like, oh, there's really no grip. You really are in dirty air. Because I had that once when I picked up a carbon fiber nose cone. They go, oh, pick this up, and you know it's going to be light, because all everyone talks about is how light carbon fiber is. You go, yeah, okay, I know this is going to be light. You pick it up, it's so light. You can't believe how light it is.
Yes, Jack. Light things tend to be light. I mean,
I know, but then it's crazy light.
It's almost a shame that we don't have those days where, I think it was the 2007 McLaren that had a very, very heavy front wing, and they used that as a balancing tool.
Really?
So they had ballast basically at the end of the wing, so that then if they wanted a more forward weight distribution, they could go to that front wing.
For those of you keeping up with Esteban Ocon penalty gate, there's more air being pumped into the hydraulic system there for Fernando Alonso at his next pit stop, I think.
Lando Norris.
Lando Norris, sorry. Well, who did I say?
You said Fernando Alonso.
Oh, crikey, sorry, no, Alonso.
That's years ago.
Yeah, exactly. It was because you talked about 2007. For those of you, keeping up with Esteban Ocon penalty gate, he's now got a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane.
My left front is giving up a little bit.
Understood. Thank you.
So Verstappen's starting to lose a little bit of grip on the left front. So whether that was Ocon, he would have got that. He's only done 1 pit stop, hasn't he, Esteban Ocon? Oh no, he's done 2 now. So maybe he got that on his second time through, serving his time penalty for not serving his time penalty, and he's sped in the pit lane and got a time penalty.
I mean, when it's been a bit of a horror day for Esteban Ocon, you kind of got to feel sorry for him, because to get 1 penalty is bad enough. To get 2 is shock, but 3 is
it's a hat-trick.
Yeah, but a hat-trick is a good thing. This is not a good hat-trick.
Lap 29 of 57, so we are past half-race distance here on Radio 5 Sports Extra, and this is the Bahrain Grand Prix, opening race of the season. Max Verstappen dominating it at the moment, 13.7 seconds clear of Sergio Perez. He's 5 seconds up the road from Charles Leclerc. He's 12 seconds up the road from Carlos Sainz. He's 3.5 seconds clear of Lewis Hamilton, and Alonso in 6th. Was trying to close the gap a little, but it's kind of stabilised around the 2-second mark. Everybody in a sort of a management phase, I think, at the moment, just sitting and settling with what they've got at present before pushing later on in the race, I would suggest. The top 10: Verstappen, Perez, Leclerc, Sainz, Hamilton, Alonso, Russell, Stroll, Bottas, Sargent, running in 10th place, Logan Sargent in the Williams.
I think, so we're now currently on lap 29 of this, lap 30, sorry, of this 57-lap race. I think between lap 33 and 40, we're going to see people either really struggling with Deg and coming in the pit, so we might see some movement over the next sort of 7 to 10 laps, Jack.
Don't disagree. Especially, I think there's a lot to play out in that Hamilton. I think Sainz maybe even might be under pressure from Hamilton at various points. Bottas again pitting early then. So into the pits comes the Alfa Romeo from 9th place. And he did 11 laps in his first stint, 17 laps here. He's going for another set of hard tyres. And 17 laps here won't get him to the end. So maybe a 3-stop strategy for Valtteri Bottas.
Yeah, do not disagree with you this time.
This is going well,
I think that Bottas, though, is the only one in the field that is going for the 3-stop strategy, apart from obviously Esteban Ocon, who's going for the, I think, 5 or 6 stop strategy, but not out of choice.
Lap 31 of 57. Verstappen leading, 13.5 seconds clear of Sergio Perez. And then he's 5 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc. Sainz in 4th, Hamilton 5th. Outside the top 10, Sargent's up into 9th place now that Bottas is pitted. So Joe's up into 10th, Bottas is 11th, Albon is 12th, Gasly 13th, Tsunoda 14th, De Vries 15th. Concerning pace for the Haas team, they're currently running in 17th and 18th, Magnussen and Hülkenberg. Right, Hamilton's going to pit here.
Okay, Lewis, so box. My tyres are okay, man. I'm short my run. Undercut threat.
So they're pitting to cover the undercut threat from Alonso, I guess. So undercut threat. So it's not they're trying to get Carlos Sainz, it's trying to keep ahead of Fernando Alonso, but Lance Stroll now pits as well. So we'll see whether Alonso can push and try and do the overcut, although I'd be surprised if that works out for Fernando Alonso. We'll wait and see. Lap 31 of 57. Alonso now maybe will stay out a little bit longer. Lap 31 of 57.
I mean, I think it was probably because Sainz coming into the pits as well. He's been told to box. I can imagine it's because of Stroll. I think Bottas was probably too far back for them to worry, for Hamilton to have to worry about the Alfa Romeo, but maybe they knew that Stroll was going to be boxing.
I think it's Alonso, wasn't it? Because Hamilton was ahead of Alonso by about just under 2 seconds. So I presume that was the threat they were covering off.
Potentially, but Alonso stayed out. Yeah, strange one.
Yeah, a very sort of defensive move from Mercedes. So we'll see what Alonso does in the meantime. Hamilton running in 7th now, having made his second pit stop. Stroll emerges onto the track, and he's behind Lewis Hamilton in 8th position. Into the pits now comes Carlos Sainz, as Sam said. Sainz told to pit in that Scarlet Ferrari. Russell coming into the pit lane as well. And will this be a neat and tidy stop for the Ferrari squad? Hard tyres going on, and it was indeed a very nice stop for the Ferrari team. Now in comes George Russell in the Mercedes. Set of hard tyres going on for Russell, and he too has a very nice pit stop as well. 2.3 seconds for Sainz, 2.5 seconds for Russell, and Sainz emerges in front of Hamilton. Is Russell going to emerge in front of Lance Stroll still? It's going to be fairly tight, you know, as they come down in towards turn 1. Stroll on the outside, Russell on the inside. Stroll will have his tyres up to temperature, and he will have DRS, I imagine, on the run up towards turn 4. Gets really good drive off turn 2, does Lance Stroll, and this is the fight over 7th position. Sound you can hear is the Aston Martin engine of Stroll. Russell goes to the inside, Stroll to the outside, and breezes past on the brakes around the outside into turn 4. So Lance Stroll gets through and is up now into 7th position. Russell down into 8th spot. Sainz emerged in 5th position, so Alonso still there in 4th, and he will now try and extend that advantage.
The undercut worked really nicely there for Lance Stroll, didn't it, against George Russell. That's what Hamilton was concerned about with Alonso, but obviously his teammates done it to George Russell. Great move.
Yep, nicely done from Stroll. Got on the power nicely coming out of turn 1, and then was more than happy to let Russell cover the inside.
Interestingly, his hand position on the steering wheel, very different to what we were seeing on Friday. He was able to give full lock into turn 1, something he couldn't do like 48 hours ago.
You can get painkillers and stuff in F1, right? In motorsport that aren't sort of, you know...
Oh, you can have the that injection. What's it? Cortisone injection. Yes, you can get the cortisone injection.
Lap 33 of 57. Max Verstappen leading. Sergio Perez in 2nd place, 14 seconds further back. Charles Leclerc 3rd. Fastest lap of the race, set by Lance Stroll, running in 7th position. Logan Sargent has now dropped back down to 14th spot, so he must have made another pit stop, Logan Sargent, to go on to the hard tyres again, because he was on the softs previously. So now he's made his 2nd stop. He's dropped down the order a little bit. Joe is into the pits also. Albon now promoted up into 10th position. It's the latter at the moment, Steve. Max Verstappen leading 14 seconds ahead of Sergio Perez. He managed to make a move on Charles Leclerc after their pit stops. So Perez managed to overtake Charles Leclerc. Currently, the interesting thing is Fernando Alonso in 4th place. He's yet to pit. He's yet to make his 2nd pit stop. Hamilton in 6th has, Stroll in 7th has, and Russell in 8th has. So can Alonso get ahead of the Mercedes is the question, Sam Bird.
This is the big question. Can he beat Hamilton to finish in 5th place, sorry, in today's Grand Prix? That's probably the biggest fight that we've got out there right now.
Charles Leclerc has just pitted and will head back out onto the track again, but he's going to be too far back from Sergio Perez, I think, to fight him for the time being. Verstappen romping away at the moment here, Steve. So out onto the circuit again comes Charles Leclerc. So Alonso's now up into third place, and he will try and stretch his advantage. And at the moment, he is 18 seconds ahead of Carlos Sainz as they came across the line that time, which is, he's kind of in the window here of attacking Sainz potentially. If he can, you know, there's a chance he can clear the Mercedes of Hamilton, and he might come out with a good tyre offset to Sainz.
Well, he's really looked after those tyres, Jack. He's doing, his last lap was a 1:37.7 compared to Sainz 37.5. Bearing in mind Sainz pitted really recently for a set of new hards. Fernando Alonso's doing a really good job. Those hards now of his well into their late teens in terms of laps that they've been on the car. I'm sure he's wringing the car's neck right now, trying to extract everything out of it before a pit stop and see if he can jump up to fourth in this race.
Sergio Perez, they are getting ready for in the pit lane now for Red Bull. In comes the Mexican. First pit stop, or first pit box for him to pull into. Off go the soft tyres, on go the hard tyres, a little bit slow on the right front. Whoa, a little bit sketchy on the release, but still swift enough for the Red Bull squad. And Perez does a 2.7 second pit stop and makes his way back onto the circuit, and he will be in a comfortable second place. And Alonso pits, so Fernando Alonso into the pit lane now for Aston Martin. It's a set of hard tyres that they've got ready for the Spaniard. Currently third, is going to emerge in sixth place, probably behind Hamilton, but it'll be close with Hamilton. It's a very nice stop actually from Aston Martin, 2.6 seconds. Hamilton is coming down the start-finish straight now, and he does come out in front of Fernando Alonso, but only by about a second. So it's Alonso's chance now to go on the attack in the remaining, 18 laps of this Bahrain Grand Prix. I'm just getting a replay of Perez's pit release, because it was very close in the end, wasn't it? They cleared it, and then, the front jackman wasn't quite quick enough.
Well, the front jackman actually made a mistake on the approach, didn't get the car up, then he panicked, put his foot down, and then the release was weak as well. So a little bit of winter rustiness there, but Red Bull are normally so good at the pit stops, aren't they? They always lead the way with regards to fastest times, and we saw that with Max Verstappen's first stop at 2.4?
Yeah.
For the first pit stop of the year. That's remarkable.
So the race is being led by Max Verstappen. He's yet to make his second pit stop, but he's got a 38-second lead over Sergio Perez, so he will retain the lead of the Grand Prix. Perez in second is 9.5 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc. He is 8.5 seconds ahead of Carlos Sainz. He's 3.5 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton, who is 1.2 seconds ahead of Fernando Alonso. So Alonso on a charge now. Stroll in 7th, Russell in 8th, 9th is Bottas, 10th is Alex Albon. Everybody has made 2 pit stops. We might see another pit stop from Valtteri Bottas before the end of this Grand Prix. 11th is Gasly, 12th Tsunoda, 13th Sargent, 14th De Vries, 15th is Joe, 16th is Magnussen, 17th Hulkenberg, 18th Norris, 19th is Esteban Ocon. And the fight is, there's a fight going on for 10th position. I can't work out what
the
fight
is. It's for 10th. It's between Albon and Gasly for 10th place.
Oh, that's it, Gasly. It's because I couldn't. I thought I was looking for an AlphaTauri there, but it wasn't. Gasly's moved over the winter to join the Alpine team, and they are separated by just 0.8 of a second. Red Bull getting ready in the pit lane now for Max Verstappen. Race leader will come into the pits, and at the end of this lap, but Albon, Gasly and Tsunoda, 10th, 11th and 12th. It's a nice little fight that's brewing. Into the pit lane down to 80 kilometers per hour. Pulls in now. Off go the old soft tyres, on go a new set of hard tyres, and out he goes. Verstappen gets on his way. Another swift pit stop from the Red Bull team. 2.3 seconds for them, and Verstappen is going to emerge comfortably in the lead of this Bahrain Grand Prix. Floors the throttle, makes his way out onto the circuit, comes out kind of side by side with Lando Norris in the McLaren, who is now going to be a lap down on lap 37 of 57. I think I did my maths wrong earlier, didn't I? Because we've now got 20 laps to go. So you can hear Fernando Alonso, half a second back from Lewis Hamilton in the fight over 5th place. Remember, Alonso started 5th. They're only 2 seconds back from Carlos Sainz, so if Alonso can clear Hamilton fairly swiftly, he's got a shot at the Ferrari driver here. Fastest lap of the Grand Prix, set by Fernando Alonso. 200 miles an hour at the end of the start-finish straight. He's so late on the brakes. Nearly goes into the back of Hamilton, but gets it stopped. He's now going to have a lovely drive. Gets a lovely line through turn 1 and 2. And now Alonso's going to attack Hamilton, coming up into the right-hander of turn 4, finds the inside. Hamilton squeezes him, but Alonso's ahead. Oh, big slide on the exit though for Alonso, and Hamilton gets back through. Alonso a little too greedy on the throttle, back end kicked out, and Hamilton gets back up into 5th position.
No, I think he was trying to stop it in the middle of the corner because he knew that Hamilton would do the undercut on him, but he sort of outsmarted himself a little bit by doing that, and Hamilton squeezed through.
So Hamilton back up into 5th place. That'll be frustrating for Fernando Alonso. He'll have to try and do it all over again, and that's lost them both about half a second to Carlos Sainz. Down the back straight, into the left-hander of turn 11. Hamilton carrying a lot of speed into the corner, but Alonso really focuses on the drive out, doesn't he, and gets a lot more speed now running up into turn 13. Now on the run down towards turn 14, the black Mercedes up against the dark green Aston Martin. Lewis Hamilton versus Fernando Alonso. We've seen them fighting briefly over the years. You think of the Hungarian Grand Prix in 2021 that Esteban Ocon won. But now the rear wing will pop open on Fernando Alonso's car, and if he can be as late on the brakes as he was last time, then Hamilton will have no response again this time up into turn 4. And again, Alonso just positioning his car perfectly to get the best drive off. Not quite as close this time as he was previously. He will be closing in on the back of the Mercedes coming up towards turn 4. Hamilton moves over to sort of cover the inside, but manages to keep Alonso at bay again. That was Alonso's big chance, and you just wonder now whether he's using up his tyres here, trying to get past Hamilton, and that could compromise his run for Carlos Sainz later on. He's so much more grip though, almost goes around the outside at turn 8. Now gets on the power, trying to come down through 9 and 10. The two go wheel to wheel through 9 and 10. Oh, Alonso goes for the cut back to the inside. Alonso makes the move into turn 10. Haven't seen an overtake there for years. But Fernando Alonso pounces and is up into 5th place. 2.7 seconds back now from Carlos Sainz. Tremendous.
You don't see that move in Formula 1 anymore. You just don't see that move in Formula 1 anymore, especially not on a 7-time world champion. Oh my days, he's really sold Lewis the dummy there. What a great move.
Yes, let's go.
He's on a mission now, Fernando Alonso. 2.7 seconds back from Carlos Sainz, who's running in 4th position. His compatriot. Now we're just getting a look at the first moment again when he first got past Hamilton, and then just coming through the right-hander on the exit had a big opposite lock moment, and that allowed Hamilton back through. But then he finally made the move stick, coming down into turns 9 and 10. I feel like Liuzzi or someone tried to overtake someone there years ago, like Liuzzi on Trulli or something, and they crashed. But it's just audacious from Alonso, just audacious and delicious. And they're still fighting. Hamilton's coming back at Alonso here into turn 4. Can't quite pull it off, but the squabble is still going on, and Alonso hasn't managed to close the gap to Carlos Sainz yet. Hamilton keeping in the fight. Russell, meanwhile, is 1.5 seconds back from Lance Stroll, so he's unable to put the other Aston under pressure. Bottas is 9th, Albon is 10th, but he's under big pressure from Pierre Gasly. As we mentioned earlier, that Albon-Gasly-Sonoda fight is a lot of fun. Down through turns 9 and 10.
The more these two fight, the further away Carlos Sainz gets. And the more they fight, the hotter their tyres are going to get. So that's not what Fernando Alonso needs. He needs to just get his head down and chip away slowly at trying to catch Carlos Sainz. Remember, Carlos hasn't been the best at his tyre management since joining Ferrari, and that Ferrari is a little bit harder on its tyre than the chasing Aston Martin.
So, Alonso running in 5th position, 2.5 seconds back from Carlos Sainz. Hamilton is still within DRS range though, and all of this fighting means Lando Norris is kind of still with them in the McLaren, even though he's a lap down. He's sort of able to stick with them. Hamilton still has DRS coming down towards turn 1. He looks a little too far back to be able to do anything about it. Carlos Sainz in 4th, Alonso in 5th. Through the hairpin right-hander at the first corner. And now out onto the back straight. Is Hamilton going to be close enough to try and fight back with Alonso here? No, he's not. And Alonso now can try and get his head down and close in on Carlos Sainz, who's running 2.5 seconds up the road still. 18 laps to go in the Bahrain Grand Prix here on Radio 5 Sports Extra. Max Verstappen is leading it, 12 seconds ahead of Sergio Perez.
In testing, in practice, since I don't run, I've been doing these things. Why penalty now?
Yeah, it's very frustrating. Let's stick with it, come on.
So, I don't know what Ocon's complaining about. I don't think he's got another penalty, has he? But he's complaining about penalties, but one was for not serving the time penalty incorrectly, which we absolutely saw. The other was for being out of position on a practice start, which he absolutely was. And then, because he didn't serve the penalty, he got another penalty, which is absolutely legit. So, unless there's something else. For Ocon, and slowing is Leclerc. Charles Leclerc from 3rd place is grinding to a halt in the Ferrari and pulling off the track.
No, come on. What happened, guys? No power.
Yellow flags are out. Charles Leclerc is out. And Fernando Alonso is now in the fight for the podium positions.
I think it might be a fuel pressure sensor because it said box to refill.
On the steering wheel?
Yeah, box to refill on the steering wheel. So I don't know whether that's a fuel management issue or something. Really strange. Feel sorry for Charles Leclerc. When is his luck going to change? Virtual safety car on lap 41.
So virtual safety car deployed. Albon up in the 9th. Gasly now up into 10th. Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. Let's have a listen to this. Coming up through 12 and 13. It just kind of dies, doesn't it, coming through those corners there. Then the car's clunking around. Down into 1st gear. And then it kind of dies as he pulls off at the side of the circuit. And Leclerc hops out of the car. And we have some more Ferrari drama. From 3rd position. They've still got a car in 3rd, Carlos Sainz. But Logan Sargent has dived into the pits, as has Kevin Magnussen, under the virtual safety car, trying to get a cheap pit stop. So we'll see whether that helps them. But I feel like I just see Ferraris break down at Bahrain so often. Remember Kimi Raikkonen? And then he walked back to the pits, you know, still in his overalls. You remember Leclerc from the lead?
Leclerc, yeah, when he had the engine issues, when he was leading comfortably.
Didn't Vettel break down on pole on the formation lap or something a few years ago?
I don't remember.
Maybe 2017 or 18?
I mean, last year it was the Red Bulls that broke down.
Yeah.
So and Ferrari had the luck then. So it's a big shame for Charles. It's not the way you want your championship to start.
Yeah. Rachel says if that's plan A, then Ferrari has sunk already. Charles Leclerc out of the Grand Prix. Right, track is clear and we can go racing again. Max Verstappen leading 10.7 seconds ahead of Sergio Perez, 24 seconds back to Carlos Sainz in 3rd. Then it's 2.5 seconds to Alonso in 4th. Hamilton is still within DRS range of Fernando Alonso as they come through the hairpin right-hander of turn 1. Russell in 7th is 1.3 seconds back from Stroll. Bottas is 8th, Albon is 9th, and Gasly is 10th, although Gasly's very, very close to the back of Alex Albon. Where are they now? Coming into the final sector. So I'll keep an eye on them as they come past the commentary box this time around, because that fight over 9th with Albon, Gasly and Tsunoda, although Tsunoda's dropped out of the fight a little bit, is going to be a very, very interesting one. Albon trying to hold on to that 9th place, but Gasly's right behind him, pulls to the inside as they come down towards turn 1. But Albon should, I think, be able to hold on to that 9th spot there, wheel to wheel, and he has got it, Gasly. Gasly gets it, went to the inside at the first corner. It's side by side further back as well with Joe and De Vries and Tsunoda. They're all in the fight here, and Tsunoda's trying to squeeze his AlphaTauri teammate, but De Vries gets through to the inside. Does he? Yes. So that is Tsunoda. No, it's Tsunoda getting ahead of De Vries, my apologies. So it's that way around. Tsunoda has managed to get ahead of Nick De Vries while they were fighting. So Tsunoda into 11th place, De Vries into 12th. De Vries is on the hard tyres, and then they've got Zhou in the Alfa Romeo fighting behind them. Lap 43 of 57, great little fight going on there. But Gasly is now up into 9th place with Albon down into 10th. Then Tsunoda in 11th, De Vries 12th, Zhou 13th, Sargent 14th, Magnussen and Hulkenberg 15th and 16th.
Fernando Alonso's just closed in by 1 second to Carlos Sainz on the last lap. Fernando Alonso hunting for P3.
Looking for a podium finish for Fernando Alonso. Just having a look at Pierre Gasly's move on Alex Albon for 9th position. And Albon covered the inside. Gasly went to the outside and managed to hang it all the way around the outside there. Very, very nice move that from Pierre Gasly. Up into 10th place after starting last, and Ocon is out of the Grand Prix. Who knows, maybe he's just been black flagged because he has so many pens. Obviously he hasn't been, to be clear, but he is out of the race. Now here comes the fight for 3rd position. Alonso is nearly in DRS range, and Hamilton is not exactly coming with him, but he's not exactly miles away.
Hamilton's not out of the fight here for a podium or P4, because Sainz is really suffering at the moment. I mean, he's comfortably the slowest of the top 5 or 6 cars, and we've still got 13 laps to run, Jack.
Yeah. Verstappen's lead is just under 10 seconds to Sergio Perez in 2nd place. They're 23 seconds ahead of Carlos Sainz. And what happened here with... So Tsunoda was running behind his teammate. Zhou tried to stick it all the way around the outside, and then De Vries tried to force Tsunoda off the road in kind of classic De Vries fashion, and then all of a sudden, tried to force Zhou off the road, then suddenly Tsunoda came through and got past both of them. So very nice moment there for Yuki Tsunoda to get up into 11th place. Lap 44 of 57. 7/10 back now. He's got DRS, Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, a little bit rude from Nick de Vries there. I think they maybe just sort of driving into another driver's lane on the corner exit isn't quite what you do in Formula 1. I think you can get away with it in Formula E, especially in the Gen 2 car, but maybe not here in Bahrain. But
Lap 44 of 57. Verstappen leading, Perez 2nd, Sainz in 3rd, but he's the only Ferrari left in the field, Rosanna. Charles Leclerc out of the Grand Prix.
Yeah, and he's just walked back into the paddock, Jack, helmet on. He's now just taken that off, had a swig of water, just smooths his hair down, and his trainer is giving him all the requirements needed to talk to us here in the media pen, watch, cap, etc. And he's walking over to the media pen now to face the music. I think there are going to be some big questions of Ferrari. I've tried to already find out what was going on, but until they get the car back, I assume they won't know exactly, but he's walking into the pen now. We will hope to get a word with him very shortly, and I'll keep you updated.
Well, his teammate Carlos Sainz is under huge pressure here from Fernando Alonso. The team saying, try to defend your position. Sainz saying, if I try to defend my position, I might not get to the end of the Grand Prix here. We've got 11 laps to go. Out onto the back straight. The start-finish straight. Underneath the commentary box, Sainz is weaving around to try and break the toe of Fernando Alonso behind. Here's Alonso's radio.
Keep the pressure on him, he's worried about his tyres.
That's the little heads up for Alonso, and he's going to pull the same move again that he managed to almost pull on Hamilton a few laps ago. He's got great drive out of turns 1 and 2, Fernando Alonso. Now up towards turn 4. The sound you can hear is the Aston Martin engine. Sainz covers the inside. Alonso goes to the outside, then gets on the power. Coming out of 4, and they almost make contact. I think they do make contact. Coming into 6 and 7. But I think Alonso's got away with that one. Tried to get on the power and get the cutback so quickly, wasn't able to quite pull it off, but now Sainz is having to defend into turn 8. Can Alonso pull the same move on Sainz that he did on Hamilton a few laps ago? Coming into turns 9 and 10. He's thinking about it, Sainz is wise, Sainz locks up, Alonso gets the drive out of turn 10. He's going to have the DRS as they scrabble for grip. Sainz will cover the inside, but too late. Alonso's there. On the inside coming into turn 11, and Alonso is up into 3rd place in the Aston Martin. Fernando Alonso is through. Sainz is trying to stay with him. Coming up into turn 13. But Alonso's got superior grip to the Ferrari, and I'll be amazed if Sainz can stick with him already. Alonso has pulled a couple of car lengths, and the Aston Martin driver is up into 3rd spot, and Hamilton's closing in 2. The Ferrari grinding to a halt after running in third place. That promoted Carlos Sainz in the other Ferrari into third position, but he's just been overtaken by Fernando Alonso. The Aston Martin driver started fifth, dropped down to seventh at the start after a collision with his teammate, but he's now up into third spot, and now Lewis Hamilton is right on the back of Carlos Sainz in the fight for fourth. 12 laps to go, and they are on Sports Extra. Up into turn 4. Alonso through, Sainz in fourth now, Hamilton in fifth, and Hamilton can see the fight as well.
So a 41-year-old Alonso has still got all the racecraft in the world. It looked like they were going to make contact, didn't it, Jack, at turn 4? It was so close. Oh!
Did he touch me?
They did indeed touch, but good racing in the end. That Ferrari is very, very quick in a straight line. Very, very quick. It shows that Fernando Alonso's gone for the more downforce. Interestingly, on the other spectrum, on the other side of the grid, Lando Norris has not left the back of this train. So, so they've had a bad weekend, but they can take some encouragement from the fact that for this last 10-lap stint, Lando Norris has been able to stick with the guys battling for the podium positions.
Lap 47 of 57. Max Verstappen leading, 10.5 seconds clear of Sergio Perez. 25 seconds back to Fernando Alonso in third. Sainz has lost DRS now to Alonso, so Hamilton has got a chance here of getting past the Ferrari and up into fourth place. Through the final corner they come at turn 14. Looking out of the window as they come through Alonso. Then it's Sainz, then it's Hamilton, right behind him. On the run down, up to 200 miles an hour, onto the brakes into turn 1. Hamilton a little too far back, so may can move into turn 1, shows his nose, but again, the Ferrari struggling so badly on traction out of the corners, and that is what is allowing Hamilton to stay there or thereabouts. I think a little too far back this time, coming up into turn 4. The 90-degree right-hander at the end of the second little straight, but Hamilton is right in this fight, although you get the feeling he needs to sort of pounce sooner rather than later, because it often seems, Sam, the longer you're behind a driver, the less chance you kind of have of making the move for some reason.
Yeah, you just get stuck there. Do you know what? It's the worst feeling when you're running out of tyres, Jack. Honestly, it's awful, because there's no good way of driving the car then. You watch how the drivers doing the hunting get to drive. They get to brake late, turn in one time, and then get back on the power nice and early and get you on exits. But when you're struggling for grip, you can't brake well, you can't exit well, so you try and carry a little bit of minimum, but the car's squirming around, and it's all so difficult.
10 laps to go. Hamilton just made a little mistake at turns 9 and 10, and as a result went a bit deep and lost a little bit of ground to Carlos Sainz. Sainz was pretty smart defending from Alonso into turn 10. He knew that move was on, but just had a little lock-up, and that is what allowed Fernando Alonso to get past.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, says Alonso. Superb. Great stuff. So he's 26 seconds back from the Red Bulls, so he's not going to be pulling this one off, but it's been a long time since Alonso was in genuine podium competitive machinery. As they come now up towards turn 4 again, and Sainz is still under big pressure here from Hamilton. Hamilton hasn't been able to make an overtake yet, but he's able to stay there, right behind Carlos Sainz, running in fourth place now. And I think if you'd have given Hamilton a fourth place at the start of this race, probably taken it.
Oh, he would have been biting her arm off for that, Jack. I think that he's not had much confidence at all in the package that he's got all weekend.
Why am I bouncing so much?
We are checking, focus on the race.
Why am I bouncing so much is the question from Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, very strange. It does look like it's bouncing, especially out of turn 10 towards turn 11. Going back to Lewis Hamilton, yeah, he's not had confidence in the package at all. He's been a bit down with the press, saying that he's not sure if they're going in the right direction and doesn't really know whether they can improve. But I think a P4 in race 1 would really cheer him up. I think that's the maximum that they could have achieved today. On the other hand, Fernando Alonso, am I right in saying, Andrew Benson, that this is the first podium under the lights here in Bahrain since it's been a night race that Alonso has had, and that makes it, he's had podiums at every single night race that Formula 1 has done.
That is such a niche stat, Bert.
Yeah, but it's I'm looking at, so Singapore, yes. Bahrain, hopefully today, yes.
Qatar, he got one in the Alpine.
Qatar, yes. Oh, no, the Saudi, he hasn't yet, has he?
No, he's not had one in Saudi,
no.
So you have to, maybe next week.
Maybe
next
next
or
week.
2 weeks'
Okay.
time, sorry, yeah.
Okay.
But he's had 3 podiums in the last decade. In the last decade, Fernando Alonso has had 3 podium finishes. Qatar last year, and then 2 in 2013.
And my other nice
here we go.
Fernando Alonso. Well, I said it yesterday. I might as well do it today.
I'll pretend
it's been 154 races since Fernando Alonso last won a race. Are we going to see a win this year for Fernando Alonso? I mean, right now you'd say that Verstappen and Perez are in a different league, but if they can do a bit of development, and if he can luck in, you never know.
If Red Bull run into trouble, I think is the only sort of option. But Red Bull not running into trouble at the moment on lap 50 of 57. Verstappen and Perez out in front. Alonso third. Sainz still just under a second ahead of Lewis Hamilton. But actually just slightly over a second there as they come into the right-hander. We'll see if Hamilton gets DRS this time through. It's going to be a bit of a tight one as they come through to start lap 50 of 57. Does Hamilton have it? He does. Here's Alonso's radio.
I'm on level 7, avoiding all the curves. Just let me know if the situation changes behind.
So Alonso's saying, let's go down actually to Rosanna.
Thanks, Jack. Charles, disappointing to see you here. We saw box to refill on the dash. What does that mean? And have you seen it before? And did you have any indication that was coming up?
No, I don't know. I mean, I really don't know what happened. As I commented on the radio, I had a loss of power. That's the only thing that I felt, and that was it.
It looked like the car was performing quite well. Were you pleased with how you approached today's race, apart from obviously the unhappy ending?
Well, not really. I mean, we are very far behind Red Bull, so the first stint was, I'm not going to say positive, but as expected, doing the choice that we have made in qualifying yesterday with the new tyres, we were second, which I think was the best we could do, really. We couldn't bring the car to the end, so at the end, this is what's most important.
Thanks very much. And Jack, while I was waiting to speak to Charles Leclerc, he stood with his hands on his hips watching that battle between Carlos Sainz and Fernando Alonso. It does just look like that Aston Martin is a lot racier and kinder to its tyres than the Ferrari.
Yeah, absolutely. And all racing drivers are here to win. But when you're Charles Leclerc and you are, not exactly close to the championship last year, but in the mix or whatever, and you have been for the last few years, and you turn up to Bahrain, and that sounds like a man who knows he ain't winning the championship this year. And you know that at the first race, one of the longest. But is that not what he sounds like to you?
Yeah, it does.
I'm not saying he's not going to, but that sounds like his current mental thought.
Yeah, it's tough. It is very tough when you see your main, let's call it main title protagonist, Max Verstappen, just disappearing into the distance in front of you, and there's nothing you can do about it. No amount of skill can help you, because Charles Leclerc's skill set is very similar to Max Verstappen's. They're both wonderfully gifted young racing drivers, 2 of the best in the world, but Verstappen, with the car underneath him at the moment and the confidence he's got, can just disappear into the distance. It is demoralising. It's really, really demoralising. And then when the car lets you down as well, when you're doing the best you can, it rubs salt into the wounds.
So Charles Leclerc out of the Grand Prix, Esteban Ocon out of the Grand Prix, and Oscar Piastri out of the Grand Prix also. Max Verstappen is leading the way, 10 seconds ahead of Sergio Perez in second place. Stroll just might have been a timing glitch there for Stroll, because he jumped up and then he jumped down again in the field. There's a nice little fight going on here between the Haas of Kevin Magnussen, and he goes past Nick De Vries and up into 14th place. So De Vries drops back into 15th. He's on hard tyres at the end of this stint. He's the only driver in the second half of the field to be on the hard tyres. His teammate Yuki Tsunoda running up in 11th spot at the moment. Hamilton has now dropped to 1.4 seconds back from Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, it looks like both Hamilton and Sainz are now struggling for tyre grip. They both not the best on tyres, the Mercedes and the Ferrari, as we see Lance Stroll as well on the hard tyres, actually just locking up and running wide at turn 10. Yeah, they're both suffering now. It's like, you know, toing and froing between doing 37.6s and sort of 37s, 38s. They're both really struggling compared to Alonso on pace.
Verstappen leading, 10.5 seconds ahead of Perez in second place. The Red Bull 1-2 with Aston Martin third, Carlos Sainz in fourth. He's now 7 seconds back, they are, from Fernando Alonso. They've got some serious race pace, that Aston Martin, and I don't think it would necessarily challenge the Red Bulls if, well, I don't think it would challenge the Red Bulls if he managed to start in third for whatever reason. Here's his radio.
This is a lovely country, right?
Stop the press, everybody. Happy Alonso. Happy Alonso. Get it framed. Lovely car to drive, Sam.
Yeah, he's very, very happy with his move, I think, to Aston Martin. He's really settled. They've given him a competitive car and he's relishing that. In fact, on the last lap, Jack, he was the fastest of pretty much everybody. Matched Verstappen's time. He's quicker than Sergio Perez. That Aston Martin in race trim is working really well. I'm not saying that it can beat Red Bull, but it's working really, really well.
Yeah, certainly doing better than Sainz and Hamilton. Stroll running in 6th position. He's 2 seconds ahead of George Russell. Russell not able to make a huge amount of progress. They pretty much did the same lap time last time through. Pierre Gasly is in 9th place. Albon in 10th, and he's now trying to fend off Yuki Tsunoda for that final points-paying position. They lapped very similarly last time around. Tsunoda... Well, it says that Albon... tyres are brand new, but I'm not quite sure how that can be the case unless he's just pitted Alex Albon on that last lap. And he's got Yuki Tsunoda right behind him. Started 15th with Alex Albon. He's now running in 10th spot as he comes out over the start-finish straight. Tsunoda is not in... yes, he is in DRS range. So they flash down into turn 1 at 200 miles an hour. Into the right, into the left. At turns 1 and 2, the final points paying position up for grabs here. And it's been a strange day for Haas because they qualified quite well with Nico Hülkenberg, did an alternate strategy with Kevin Magnussen, but running basically last for the teams that didn't have a problem, i.e. Norris.
Yeah, front wing damage curtailed Nico Hülkenberg.
Yeah, true.
Esteban Ocon did 17 pit stops. Charles Leclerc obviously had the issue. Piastri had the electronic issue in his pit stop, never got going again. Lando Norris pneumatic pressure issue. So there's been quite a few issues going on out there. In the meantime, Logan Sargent running in P12, doing a really solid job. Gasly's made it up to P9 from last on the grid, so he's done a solid job this afternoon.
Yeah, it certainly has, and there was quite a lot of excitement from some quarters about the race pace of the Alpine, and Gasly appears to be proving that to be fairly correct, running up in 9th place, having started last. On that last lap, he was a second quicker than Valtteri Bottas, so he's actually got a shot here of getting Bottas. He's 2.5 seconds back. It's a slim chance, but a second a lap quicker on the last lap and 2.5 seconds back with 4 laps to go. You do the maths. He's got a possibility here. And a 5-second time penalty for Nico Hülkenberg, running in 16th place for multiple track limit infringements.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. He's got a 55-second gap to Lando Norris, so it doesn't really concern anybody.
So the gap between Sainz and Hamilton is now up to 2.1 seconds. And big lock up there for Tsunoda, coming into turn 1 as he tries to catch and pass Alex Albon as they come out onto the run up towards turn 4. That 55 and 57 now for Max Verstappen, the race leader. So 2 to go at the end of this one in what has been a dominant drive for the Red Bull man. Perez in 2nd position, Alonso 3rd, Sainz is 4th, Hamilton 5th, Stroll, Russell, Bottas, Gasly and Albon the top 10. And it's Tsunoda, Sargent, Joe, Magnussen, De Vries, Hülkenberg and Norris, the 17 drivers still running.
Stroll's pace has really dropped off over the last couple of laps. Last lap for Stroll, 1:38.3 compared to Russell's 37.8. Russell, if he can get within DRS, will fancy, at least one attempt to regain P6 over Lance Stroll.
Here's Fernando Alonso's radio.
Will Lance catch them?
Lance is 4 seconds back from Hamilton. So I think it's tough with 3 to go at the end of this one.
Copy. Still amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
So Alonso giving Stroll a bit of credit on the radio there, saying he's doing an amazing job after breaking some of his wrists in supposedly a cycling accident, and breaking his toe as well, and not doing any of pre-season testing. Across the line comes Verstappen now to start the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix. 12.3 seconds ahead of Sergio Perez in second position. Oh, Giacomo Agostini is waving the checker flag today. Formula One but mainly a motorcycle racer. Corner at Snetterton named after Agostini, the sort of tight hairpin left-hander. Zhou Guanyu pitting for the Alfa Romeo team with only a couple of laps to go. That's an interesting choice. I wonder if we will see anyone pitting for fastest lap. At the moment, Pierre Gasly has the point for fastest lap. Verstappen kind of can't. Well, I know the answer now because no one can pit now. So it will be Pierre Gasly that will take the point for fastest lap. Sonoda's 7 tenths away from the back of Albon. Who else was it that was closing in rapidly on someone? Someone was getting about a second a lap on someone, but I can't actually remember who it was. Oh, was it? It was Gazzo on Bottas, but the gap is down to under 2 seconds, but it's kind of stabilised at that point. So I think with 2 to go, might be a bit of a tough one for Pierre Gasly. He was taking a second a lap out of Valtteri Bottas, but that last time through, Bottas did a 37.8, Gasly a 37.5, so only took 3 tenths out of the Alfa Romeo driver. Also into the pits comes Lando Norris from 17th and last, so that might be to retire the car potentially. Yeah, it doesn't look as though Norris is going to head back out, and both McLaren, no, he is. So he's put on a new set of soft tyres, and he is going to head back out onto the circuit. Across the line comes Max Verstappen to start the final lap of the Bahrain Grand Prix in a world of his own, and he was from about lap 2. It was about lap 2 when he was 2 seconds clear. Lap 3 he was 3 seconds clear. Lap 4 he was 4 seconds clear. And we kind of knew which way this one was going.
And then he's just managed it superbly, hasn't he? Never really needed to be in any worry or fuss. He had the issue with the downshifts in the early phase of the race, but we haven't heard any complaining about that for the second half of the race. Beautifully managed by Red Bull. It looks like they're coming home for a comfortable 1-2, just where, to be honest, we thought they would be after pre-season.
Yeah, it is very... Max Verstappen just has half a lap to go here, John. He's got a 12-second lead over his Red Bull teammate Sergio Perez. Verstappen, in the early stages, it looked pretty ominous, really. From about lap 3 or 4, he had a 3 or 4 second advantage also. And from then on, he never looked back. There was some good fights over second position. Perez and Charles Leclerc squabbling. Perez came out on top. Then Charles Leclerc retired. We've seen some fantastic fighting in the midfield. Fernando Alonso doing some brilliant overtakes on Lewis Hamilton and Carlos Sainz. Alonso will finish third, Perez will finish second, but it's Max Verstappen, the 2-time champion, the reigning champion, who comes out of the final corner here in Bahrain, takes the checkered flag, wins the opening race of the season in absolutely dominant style, in what could be a very, very ominous start to the season for the rest of the pack. Verstappen wins, Perez second, Alonso third, Lewis Hamilton is going to finish in 5th, but Verstappen wins the opening race of the season. Sainz is going to come across the line in 4th spot, and here comes Fernando Alonso now, down to the final corner in the Aston Martin, turns it through the right-hander, and what an interesting season we are in for Fernando Alonso. Weaves from left to right, the Aston Martin pit crew, where a lot of them celebrated victory with Sergio Perez a few years ago. Those are the screams and the cheers on the pit wall for Aston Martin. And Fernando Alonso is a front runner again in Formula One for the first time in a decade. Sainz finishes 4th, Hamilton finishes 5th, Stroll in 6th, 1.3 seconds ahead of George Russell in the end. Valtteri Bottas, I think, is going to hang on here ahead of Pierre Gasly. Here they come out of the final corner, fight over 8th place. Bottas takes the checkered flag. In the end, the gap is just 1.1 seconds, and Alex Albon is going to get a point in the first race of the season.
Well done, Max. Nicely driven.
Yeah, very lovely that. Really good result. Yeah, we had good race pace. Very happy with that. Thank you, guys. That's exactly the start to the season we wanted and needed.
Well done, mate. That's the perfect start to 2023. A brilliantly executed race. Very, very well done. A great team result.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect 1-2.
Perfect 1-2 for the Red Bull team.
Absolutely perfect 1-2, the right way round. Just what Verstappen wanted. You know, for him to win, Perez to do a great job in coming second. The alarming thing, I think, for everybody else is just how far up the road they were come the end of the race. We're speaking of Fernando Alonso coming a heroic 3rd place in his Aston Martin. He has finished the best part of 40 seconds behind Max Verstappen. It just goes to show, Alonso Radio.
Yes, mate. Well done. That's P3.
Yes! What you have done, guys. What you have done. I'm so proud of you. It's amazing.
That's for Jim's 60th birthday.
Happy birthday! The 60s are the new 40s.
And the 40s are the new 20s. If you're Fernando Alonso.
Absolutely. But going on to my point again, Jack, you know, 40 seconds, I can't see anybody making that up. That's such a big gap. Now, there will be tracks where they struggle more. There will be tracks that suit other people, but that's a huge gap between one team to everybody else.
Great work in the stop today, guys, and great work over these 2 weeks. I know we're not where we want to be, but let's keep pushing. We got some serious work to do to close the gap, but I believe in you all, so let's keep going for it.
It's Lewis Hamilton on the radio, pulling up into Parc Fermé, but Max Verstappen is making his way now up onto the sort of winner's podium in front of Rosanna Tennant.
Whoa! Jack, I'm worried for the bottom of the RB19, Max's car, as he went up the ramp. It clattered the floor. But he is there on the winner's podium, as you say. The music playing out, so many photographers and camera crews here. People rushing, running up the pit lane to get a spot, to take a photo of the reigning world champion, the defending world champion, the 2-time world champion, and now the winner of the Bahrain Grand Prix in 2023.
He seemed so relaxed yesterday, Rosanna, when you sort of spoke to him after the pole position. It was all very much, it feels like, and when you spoke to Christian Horner on the grid, actually, it felt like they all kind of knew this was coming.
Well, I think so. I think Max wasn't entirely comfortable in the car yesterday, and yet he still put it on pole. I think this is, as you said, an ominous start to his campaign. He's never won a season opener. He has now.
He stands on top of the car and pumps his fists, jumps down off it, and goes to dive into his mechanics. Big hugs with them and high fives and congratulations all around. And a really, really strong drive from Max Verstappen. And Fernando Alonso is celebrating like he's won the race here for Aston Martin. Because to be fair, and he jumps into the mechanics now, and are they going down? Are they going down? They're all behind the sort of fencing that keeps them apart. And he's high-fiving and hugging with everybody around there. There's a few more around the corner that Alonso's got to celebrate with. But these drives sometimes from Verstappen, and we've seen it with Hamilton in the past, where it's kind of like, it's difficult to say good drive from Verstappen, because it was, but but also so easy. You know what I mean?
That's his level.
Yeah.
He's that good that's the normal. So, yes, it was well driven, and he did the job that he can do perfectly. But it is sublime. Like, let's take nothing away from him. The way that he can drive that car is phenomenal, and he can extract more out of a Formula One car than probably most ever could and ever can. but for him that's an average Sunday.
Yeah, very true. So the driver's off to get weighed now, and then they will be heading up to the podium in a few moments' time. We'll be hearing from them first of all down in Parc Fermé. A full top 10 really quickly. Verstappen, Perez, Alonso, Sainz, Hamilton the top 5, Stroll, Russell, Bottas, Gasly, Albon the top 10, Tsunoda, Sargent, Magnussen, De Vries, Hulkenberg the top 15, Joe and Norris the other 2 finishers, Ocon, Leclerc and Piastri retiring from the Grand Prix. We'll bring you full reaction in the Checker Flag podcast, which you'll be able to download a little bit later on from wherever you get your pods, or from the BBC Sounds app, of course. And we will hear reaction from the likes of, well, I don't know, whoever Rosanna gets to interview, but hopefully sort of your Hamiltons and your Russells of this world. But of course the top 3 also, but we'll hear from them now. First of all, starting with the race winner, Max Verstappen, and they are going to be talking, actually it might be Alonso, and here's Nico Rosberg with
Fernando, how awesome was that start to the season? P3 for you there.
Yeah, man. You are my fucking hero. Yeah, first of all, I think congrats to Lance, my teammate. You know, had a surgery 12 days after. Now he's fighting right with everybody. So yeah, amazing for the team. It was great weekend, and yeah, finishing in the podium on the first race of the year. This is just amazing. You know, as Aston Martin did over the winter to have the second best car on race 1. This is just unreal.
How did it feel to pass that Ferrari in Sainz and that Mercedes in Hamilton out on track there? I mean, you were shouting on the radio.
Yeah, obviously I would love to start in front of them and then use the pace, but yeah, we had not the best start today, and we had to pass on track. So yeah, it felt a little bit more exciting and more adrenaline for sure. So people enjoyed. We did enjoy as well. So let's go in together.
Great, and you have more wind tunnel time as well. Do you think that's going to play into it, your development rate of the car?
I hope so, but we will not get much next year.
All right, let's move on to who's coming next. Max, Sergio. Sergio's coming next. Dream start for the team, isn't it, with a 1-2 here in Bahrain?
Yeah, it's a great start. I mean, when we look back at last year, how we started here, it's really nice. It's a nice comeback as a team. You know, we worked really hard over the winter. So it's great to see all the boys enjoying the first race. And yeah, we have a strong package. So yeah, it was important today to get both cars until the end.
But of course you're also a fighter, huh? And you want to win. Which area is it where you still need to like work on most to try and get closer to Max and beat him?
Well, I think today was really that start that really put me out of contention from the race. But it was all about minimizing the damage. So finishing second is the maximum I could do today. It's a long season. I think I'm getting closer every single session.
So you're confident, huh? You're going to give him a run for his money?
Yeah, certainly. I think I'm feeling comfortable with the car, and we have a strong package. And yeah, I will give my best.
Thank you. We'll move on to Max now, the race winner. Max, what a dream start and what an awesome drive there.
Yeah, it was a very, very good first stint where I basically made my gap. And from there onwards, it was all about just looking after the tires, because you never really know what's going to happen later on in the race. So we just wanted to make sure that we had the right tires and in good condition as well. So yeah, of course, very happy to finally also win here in Bahrain.
Yeah, true. Your first win here. Was there any issues during the race? I mean, you were complaining a little bit about downshifts and also car balance not being so great throughout the whole weekend.
Nothing big. Just little things you always want to fine tune. So I think they're quite easy to get on top of.
And now looking forward to Jeddah, different kind of track.
Yeah, it's very different.
But you're very confident, no, that you can get on top of the balance issues and everything and be just as strong.
I think we have a good race package. I mean, of course, it will depend a bit race to race, but yeah, we can definitely fight with this, you know. And yeah, also a big thank you to the team, you know, over the winter what they've done again to give us such a quick race car again.
All right, thank you very much, Max. What a fantastic start to the Formula 1 season.
So Max Verstappen wins the opening race of the season, takes the lead of the championship that he's won for the last 2 years. Sergio Perez finishing in second. Fernando Alonso bullish about his chances, that is for sure, going into the remainder of the season. Make sure you join us for the Checker Flag podcast later on to bring you all of the reaction, and we'll hear from the top 3 and some of the other drivers as well. But from Sam Bird, Rosanna Tennant, myself, Jack Nichols, we'll see you for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, a couple of weeks' time from Jeddah. This has been an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live. Max Verstappen, the winner of the opening race of the season here in Bahrain.